Machine operator Margaret Jones is suing her deceased son's girlfriend, 27-year-old teacher's aide Melissa Filarecki, for the return of her son's belongings. Melissa is countersuing for harassment.
Order. All rise. Now, this is case number 181 on the calendar in the matter of Jones versus Filarecki.
Thank you.
Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have seats, please.
Mrs. Jones, the defendant was your son's girlfriend for a long time.
Yes.
How long did you live together?
5.5 years.
No, not that long.
That's what she says.
I'm sorry.
And your son was in a tragic accident and was killed.
Yes, he
And
was.
what you want from the defendant is property that you say belonged to your son. It was your
Yes,
son's
ma'am.
property.
Yes.
The defendant says that they lived together for a long time. They accumulated property together. She has given you some of his personal property, but the rest she feels is hers. And she is also counterclaiming because she says you've been harassing her, and there is some property that you have that actually belongs to her, right? I assume you would not have brought your counterclaim if the plaintiff had not brought her claim.
Right.
Is that a fair statement?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so I'm going to go to you for a minute. When did you and Mrs. Jones's son move in together?
Back in '97.
Okay. Tell me about the accident. Were either of you present when the accident happened?
Right after I was.
What was the date of the accident?
November 16, 2001.
And it was an automobile accident, is that right?
No, ATV, four-wheel terrain vehicle.
Okay. What items of personal property do you want?
He has a ring from Sealy Company, a gold ring that they had given him. Literally what I have right now is I had his work clothes, which were junk.
It is work clothes, yes.
They're junk. I mean, they're holes.
Right.
I can do nothing with them.
Go ahead.
Things that I want back are the things that I was part of his life for, that he had bought.
Well, talk to
himself.
me. I so far hear a gold ring. This
Their
is a court.
stereo equipment,
Is stereo equipment?
speakers,
Just a minute,
amplifiers.
Just a minute. Stereo? So far that has no sentimental value at all. What's next?
PlayStation, all his games. These were his things that he would have given to his nephews.
How old was your son when he passed away?
He was 26.
When did he buy the stereo?
Just within the last couple of years.
When he was living with the defendant.
Yeah, but everything he bought, I'm willing, if she has receipts, they'll probably fall on the credit cards that I've been paying for the last 3 years.
Why have you been doing that?
Because he was paying for her truck a lot. She kept getting it repossessed, didn't have the money to make her truck payments, so he would make her truck payments, then he wouldn't be able to pay his bills.
So he'd come to you and you'd make gifts to him.
No, not gifts. He had him pay him back.
Did he pay you back?
Not all of it. He died before.
Well, no court is going to go through all those bills and figure out what he paid and what he didn't pay. I mean, these people lived together for, let's say, minimally 5 years. They had a home together. I mean, I can understand as his mother you might want certain sentimental things, but let's proceed with the list that you say. We have a stereo, we have a PlayStation. Go ahead, what else?
VCR, his DVD, his nice clothing that he had that wasn't all tore up. There was a lot of Dale Earnhardt collectibles that I had bought in him.
Yes, race cars. Go ahead.
He collected all things that I had bought in him through the years for Dale Earnhardt.
That you gave him as gifts.
To my son.
That you gave him as gifts.
Yes.
Once
yes,
you
ma'am.
give him things as gifts, they're gifts. What else?
He had car amplifiers, which were at one time in my truck. He had a cash box full of credit cards, which I had to call credit card companies because she kept those.
So you called the credit card companies and canceled them.
Yes.
Go ahead, Miss Jones.
I mean, he had all of his clothing, everything that was important to me, what David was into, and everything that was important to him.
Everything that was important to your son, he shared with the person he lived with, Miss Jones.
Well,
the only thing that you said to me that in any way moves me is a gold ring. A gold ring that may have had some sentimental value for you. A stereo doesn't have sentimental value. Neither does a VCR, a DVD, a car amplifier. Put my glasses on to see what else. A PlayStation. Even small race cars don't have sentimental value for you. I can understand you wanting to have something that belonged to your son that you can keep, that you can hold, that you can put in a box.
Well,
the only thing that would be is a ring. The rest of the stuff only has monetary value.
when this first happened, when David first passed away, Melissa asked me if she could use David's things. Because I had went down and got from circuit court, so I was taking care of his estate.
Let me see what you have from surrogate's court.
And she asked me, could she use his things,
Let
which...
me just a minute.
Of course I
Let me-
said
wanna
yes, she
see.
could.
I want to see what it says here.
Okay.
Okay, all this says is you can act as his voluntary administratrix. Was there any insurance or any other settlement as a result of this accident?
Life insurance?
Any insurance, any lawsuit, any money?
Life insurance.
Okay, and who was the beneficiary?
I was.
Okay, and how much was the life insurance policy?
$40,000.
Okay, so you got $40,000. So that the sum total of his estate was the $40,000.
Well, there was another insurance that he had through J.C. Penney, accidental death and dismemberment.
Yes.
And that was $125,000.
And who got that?
I did.
Okay.
He
so,
left everything to me.
Fine. And you got all that already.
Right.
So why are we here? I don't understand why we're here.
Because these were his things. She made an agreement with me. She said, in her exact words, when I move out of this house, I will return everything of Davis to you. And I believed her. I took her for her word, which, when she did move out of the house, she did leave the things. The next morning, they were gone.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
She said, I want these things, and if I don't get these things today, I will kill your daughter and she will come home in a body bag.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Margaret Jones is suing her deceased son's girlfriend, Melissa Filarecki, for the return of his belongings. Melissa says Margaret already has everything.
All right, I'll hear you. Go ahead.
Your Honor, I do have the ring for her.
Can I see it, please?
Yes, you may.
You say it was a gold ring?
It's supposed to be.
What does it say on it?
From the Ceiling Mattress Company.
What was it for?
He was Employee of the Month many, many times. Many
What
times.
else do you have in the bag?
I have the list of stuff I left in the apartment for
Can
Margaret.
I see it, please? What else is in the bag?
Oh, just pictures, and I have a pin that he got from
Can I see it?
Celia. Yeah, you want the whole thing?
Did the defendant give you the following? Necklace, charms, class ring, and keychain with baby pictures on it.
Yes, those I got. Those were things I gave my son, yes.
She gave them back to you?
Yes, she did.
A teddy bear with a graduation year on it.
That I don't remember.
Title to a motorcycle, a 1998 four-wheeler Rabbit.
Title's in his name, yes.
She gave it
Yes.
to you.
They were in his name.
Dale Earnhardt Collectibles.
No, there's only a few pieces.
But she gave you some.
She gave me some of them.
A home gym.
Yes.
Coffee table
No.
he made in high school.
No, I haven't seen that.
Your Honor.
Yes.
It was not left on the back porch. The door was broken off.
Camcorder.
Yes.
All the Christmas decorations.
No.
Model cars.
The only model cars that I know of, and I don't have them, is the cars that I bought for him, but I don't have them now.
Raiders collections.
That's three-quarters away going too. There's only a few pieces left of that.
Car
She gave me
parts,
those.
stereo, and speakers.
No.
What'd you do with those?
I left everything on the back porch.
No.
Listen, in the 5 years that you were together, did you exchange gifts?
Yes, we did.
Were you both employed?
Yes, we were.
What kind of work were you doing?
I was a certified nurse's aide, and I also went to school full-time.
When you leased these apartments together, did you purchase things for the apartment together?
Yes, we did.
And you kept a stereo and a VCR and a DVD?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a cash box that you know about?
That's where I got the ring, and I do have the credit cards with me.
Okay, you can give those to her. She's already canceled them. Miss Jones, I'm going to tell you the following, and then I'm going to very quickly address your counterclaim. When somebody dies, an easier emotion to deal with is usually anger.
Yes, ma'am.
You said yes. Do you really understand what I mean? The sadness, is this your daughter?
Yes, it is.
You see, it's much easier to be angry at somebody than to be hurt and feel sad, because you can vent it out. You can get it out. Whereas dealing with the sorrow of somebody's death is much more painful. Whether they had a good relationship or a bad relationship, your son was together with this woman for 4.5 years, and he was a young man. So for the better part of really his adult life, they were together. They were a couple. whether you thought they were good for each other or bad for each other, it's irrelevant. She was part of his life for a very long time. She tried to do the right thing with you. I mean, if you're talking to me about this ring, you're talking about not a gold ring. I don't even think it's a silver ring. It's a ring that says Celie on it. She's giving it to you. There's a pin there that also was an Employee of the Month pin. She's giving that to you. It's easier to be angry at her than to either accept certain responsibilities that you might feel for his death, maybe his sister, because this accident was with an ATV, an all-terrain vehicle.
Yes.
Were you there?
I was on
She
it.
was involved in it.
I mean, I could tell from looking at her that there's more than just grief there, so many months away from the incident, that there may be a little bit of guilt attached.
Right.
Maybe. But that's not her fault. That's not her fault. Nothing's going to bring your son back. Certainly a stereo, a VCR, and a DVD are not going to bring your son back.
Nothing can bring my son back. You're right.
Right. Nothing. Not the $125,000 you got from one insurance policy or the $40,000 that you got from the other insurance policy. Not a VCR, a DVD, and his clothing. They're not going to bring him back.
Well,
These are little mementos that she says you can have.
told me before she didn't have them.
Oh, well, here they are.
Can I speak,
And
Your
I
Honor?
want you to have them. That's all. You can give these back to the plaintiff. Do you want to proceed with this counterclaim that you have for harassment, or you just
Yes.
want to say, listen, let's try to be friends?
No, I do.
I'm listening.
I have the police report. She called and threatened my mom that my mom was going to know.
Is your mother here?
Yes, she is.
Tell me your name.
Linda Filarecki. I'm her mother.
You want to tell me about this phone call that you got from the plaintiff?
Yes, it was a day or two after Melissa moved back home. I had gotten a phone call from Margaret wanting to speak to Melissa, and I wasn't sure who it was, and I asked who she was. She said, Margaret. And I said, Margaret, she's not here. She's working right now. And she said she promised to give me David's PlayStation and surround sound, and she had mentioned things, and I said, Margaret, I would never want to be in your position that you're into. I said, I would never want that. She said, I want these things, and if I don't get these things today, I will kill your daughter, and she will come home in a body bag, and she will know how it feels to lose a child. And I said, Margaret, I would never want to be in your position. And she just went, she was out of control, and I just hung up on her.
Anger is a much easier thing to deal with than sorrow, because she's able to lash out at you rather than dealing internally with the sorrow of the event
Right.
and the sorrow of the loss.
But I was worried that she was so upset that she had, it was possible.
And you made a police report.
Yes.
Can I see the police report, please?
And, Your Honor, I also missed 2 weekends of work because I also waitress on the weekends.
In
and
Troy.
In Troy. And my boss wrote me a letter.
I don't read letters from bosses. This report is dated in June. Is that right?
Yes.
The police did ask her not to try to stay away from Troy as much as she could for a while until Margaret did calm down.
Did the police come to your house, Mrs. Jones, and speak to you?
No, they did not, Your Honor.
They should have.
I have my police report here where they
I'd
for
like to
larceny, and I never bothered her at her job.
I didn't ask you
call her
about your job. I'm
house.
talking to you about this phone call. I believe her mother that
Well.
you had this conversation with her.
I had a conversation with Melissa when she called me
No,
3 or
with her
4
mother.
times.
I'm talking with her mother.
3 or 4 times she's called me.
Did you understand
Yes,
what I
ma'am, I
said?
did.
I'm talking about the conversation with her mother. I absolutely believe her mother when her mother says to me that you said, unless I get these things back, you're going to see your daughter in a body bag, then you'll know how it feels. What kind of thing is that to say? It's only because you're angry.
They were never together that length of time either because she had left and went with another guy for a while. The first night of his wake, she had another man sleeping over. And I'd say just
I
about
was
every
there,
week
Margaret.
after that, there was a different guy in there.
Let me explain something to you. I don't believe that.
That's the honest to God truth.
I don't believe that. Just as I don't believe that you took $165,000 that you got when your son died, right, and went and blew it in Las Vegas.
What?
I wouldn't believe that because you don't look like that kind of person. You look like a reasonable kind of person. And I'm looking at her, and I don't believe that she brought another guy to his,
she did.
she may have brought another person who was a male to his wake.
Not,
Listen,
no, excuse me,
let's
maybe
not, You have an anger, and I'm trying very hard to be nice to you.
I know you are.
I am really trying very hard to be nice to you. Your daughter was involved, at least in this incident.
Yes, she was.
You and your brother, how far apart in age are you?
I'm his twin.
So it was very difficult for you.
She has
It
nothing
is
to
very.
lose.
It was very difficult for you. And you actually saw the accident.
He was helping me.
He was helping you when it happened. So you have a certain guilt, right? You have a certain guilt. I understand that. Don't be mad at her. There's no reason to
I'm
be
not
mad
mad
at
at
her.
her.
For over a TV, over a VCR, over a stereo. Listen, your son moved out of the house when he was how old?
19.
That's very young to move out of the house. There has to be a reason for that.
He lived right downstairs from me.
I don't care
with
whether we
his
live right
girlfriend.
downstairs.
With
There's
his-
a reason a child moves out of the house when they're 18 years old unless they go away to school.
No, he moved down
These
with his
days,
girlfriend.
now you can't get rid of them until they're 35.
Well, actually, Judge, he sweared he'd never leave again, and he's always stayed by me. And she can even tell you I came first in his life. Always.
Well, I want to tell you something. That's not healthy. That's not healthy for a 26-year-old man to have to say, my mother comes first in my life and she always will.
Because I always helped
Yeah.
him when he needed
Yeah.
help. I always tried to guide him to do
That's
the
what you're
right
supposed
thing.
to do. So you're not supposed to tarnish his death with this kind of stupidity lawsuit. It's stupid.
That's right,
A
I didn't do
VCR, a television set should not bring you to court. You should
know?
say whether they were together a year or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. There were certain periods of time when they brought each other pleasure, when they cared for each other. She knows how much he cared for you. She knows how much he cared for you. You're supposed to just be a nice lady. So, you got the sentimental things back that I think that she was nice to give back to you, that you have, they're yours. I want you to forget about a VCR. I want you to forget about a PlayStation. And I want you to forget about your counterclaim. She's not thinking rationally. Do you understand? You understand? It's going to take some time, because the truth of the matter is, whether you have found another person or not, I certainly hope you have, because you're supposed to move on. You're a young woman. She will never get over the death of her child. You don't get over the death of a child. You sometimes get over the death of a partner, a maid, a boyfriend, you know, because you move on with your life and you find someone else to fill that void. She's never going to fill that void, but you have to fill that void with something other than anger, because it's not healthy.
I know.
It's not
I
healthy.
know.
It's not healthy. Make up. Be nice with each other. Your cases are dismissed. That's all.
Now, this is case number 221 on the calendar in the matter of Collins versus Deal. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks have seats.
Ms. Collins, you and the defendant were engaged. It is your claim that he purchased an engagement ring for you, an engagement ring set for you. He bought it on your credit card. The engagement is over. The relationship is over. You want the rings back, or you want him to pay off the credit card. Is that what you want? He says you actually took the rings back. He doesn't have possession of the rings. You have them. And he is counterclaiming for some medical bills that he says he paid for you. There was an agreement that you would pay him back, and you never did. Is that right, sir?
That's right.
Who's got the rings?
I do not have the rings with me.
But you have them at home.
No, I do not have the rings at all.
Did you take the rings back from his house?
No, I did not. He has the rings. I'm making payments on the rings. Supposedly, I took the rings. I did not take the rings.
Let's start so we don't have to go back to the year of the flood. You're engaged, you're happy, you're together, buys the rings using her store credit. And then you break up. On what date did you break up?
I'd say the end of August.
And who had the rings at that time?
I did. I was making payments. The agreement was if I had the rings, I was going to pay for them.
So she gave you back the ring,
Yes.
right?
Right.
Now tell me about how the rings came from your possession to her possession.
Okay, first of all, she was wearing some of the rings that she took from my house. July 15th through the 17th, she had a fight with her boyfriend. She thought they were breaking up or something like that. So she came over after work, and we started talking. One thing led to another, we had sex. I went to the kitchen to get some water. She ran down the hall, locked herself in my room. She knew exactly where the rings were. When I went there, the door was locked. I had to go in the other room, get my spare key to get it out. Those rings right there were in the room. Same thing. I said, you know, I'm not going to pay for them if you have them. That's, you know, why pay for something you don't have? That's my whole thing. She said, fine. She thought because we had sex that everything was going to be okay. She was going to like, oh, next month he's going to pay because we had sex. And I'm tired of getting used by her. That's all she does. She just uses people.
There's no way I could have gone to his room. He locks his room with a key. My mother can vouch for that. because she's came over one day where his room was locked. His room was always locked. Always. There's no way I could have stormed down his hallway and went in his room.
When I am home, I don't lock my house. I don't lock my room. When I'm away, I lock my room. That's plain and simple. I have roommates. Everyone goes in and out.
You broke up when?
The 4th.
April?
Yeah, April.
April. And so you made payments in May?
Yeah, I was making payments all the way
Made
through.
payments in June? And made payments in July?
That is correct.
And in July 15th to 17th, I gather there's no issue that you were at his house.
I was not at his house, and I did not sleep with him. I have not been at his house for probably close to 4 months.
Do you have any witnesses?
Yes, I have my mother. She can testify about the rings with the conversation she had with him.
Oh, let me hear what you have to say about the rings. What's your last name, Collins?
Jared.
Tell me the conversation you had with the defendant about the rings.
After they had broke up and after they're purchasing the rings, Melissa would talk to Chuck every month to make sure that he was going to make the payment because it was her credit. And he said yes. Well, in June, they weren't getting along very well, and she had told Chuck that she would like to have her rings back because she's tired of dealing with him every month and having to call to see if he's going to make the payments because it's her responsibility. And she said, if you don't give me my rings back, I'm just going to go to court because it's my account and I'm responsible for the loan. Chuck called me on my cell phone in June on my way to work, left me a message, a very lengthy message that Melissa called him, said that she wanted her rings back. He didn't understand why I'm making the payments. She said she's threatened to take me to court. I don't understand why I'm making the payments. And then that was when the next day she had called me and said that Chuck had called her and said yes, but he, of course, at that point said that she had stole the rings. But then he made the payments in July and August.
So what you're saying is they broke up in April, but sometime in June, she said, I want the rings back.
Right. Yes, ma'am.
Even though he was making the payments, she said, I want the rings back.
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. She took them. Sit down.
I
Your
did
claim
not
is
take
dismissed.
them.
Now I'm going to your counterclaim. You want to tell me about this surgery that you're talking about?
I like to go to Tahoe about every month. I took her to go to Tahoe, and on the way back we saw a sign for surgery, I guess. She said she wanted to get them done. I said, okay, that's fine. I was all, will you pay me back? She said, yes, I will. The only way that she could get them done is if I had to trick her mom and say it was a gift. That's the only way, because her mom would not have let her done it.
Never.
Shh.
So we're on the way, we get there, and she goes, I swear I'll pay you back $100 a month. I say, okay, that's fine. Every month she...
When was this?
September 13, 2001.
Okay. And then you became engaged in October.
Yeah, yes,
Is that right?
that is correct.
In September, did she give you any money?
No, she didn't.
In October, did she give you any money?
No, she didn't.
November?
No.
December?
No, she didn't give me
January?
anything. She didn't give me anything.
Listen to me. January?
No.
February?
No.
March?
No.
April, you broke up.
Yes.
You became engaged in October,
Yes.
right? Bought her rings in October.
Yes.
Did you ever live together?
Yes, we did.
From when to when?
October to the February.
And the kind of surgery she had was cosmetic surgery. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Right?
That's correct.
I hope you enjoyed it. Your counterclaim's dismissed. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She wants everything and did not pay for anything.
He's a liar. He's always going to be a liar. If I had the rings, I wouldn't be here.
She's a cheater. She always cheats. She can't keep a steady boyfriend.
He's crazy. He's psycho. He's a liar.
I'm just happy it's over. I don't want to deal with her anymore.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Tyler versus Webb. Step forward, please.
Tax preparer Peggy Tyler is suing her former employer, business owner Tom Webb, for past due wages and sexual harassment.
Miss Tyler, according to your complaint, you worked for the defendant in January of 2000
Till April 15th of 2002, I'm sorry.
April of 2002, mid-April.
Right.
And you claim that he owes you some money. You say
Yes.
he owes you money for some wages that he didn't pay you for, that 2 weeks' worth, that he owes you some commission,
Yes, ma'am.
that he sexually harassed you, which is the reason he's not going to pay you because you did not respond to his advances. And third and finally, that he had promised to pay your son some money for doing some odd jobs for him.
It was one, Your Honor. They took a balloon down the whole season.
You'll explain that to me because I have no idea what kind of work you were doing for Mr. Webb because it doesn't say in the complaint what kind of work you were doing and what kind of place he has. Mr. Webb says there was some money outstanding, according to him, but he said you broke your agreement with him. The agreement was that you would work for him through April 15th, and you left prior to that date, so he's not paying you a dime.
No, I didn't leave prior to that date.
That's your defense. Is that right, sir?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
He would look down our blouses and make comments about our breasts.
And the other thing you say is your boobs would make nice pillows.
We're supposed to be seen and not heard.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Peggy Taylor says former employer Tom Webb sexually harassed her when he called her a hot biker mama. Peggy says when she rebuffed his advances, he refused to pay her.
What kind of business do you have, Mr. Webb?
Tax preparation and filing, Your Honor.
Ms. Tyler, when did you start to work for the defendant?
I actually started to work for him December the 23rd.
In what capacity?
I was a tax preparer, Your Honor.
And what was the salary that you were supposed to receive?
$7.50 an hour.
Is that correct so far?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, what about the commission part of it?
When we got hired, everybody that got hired, we signed a paper and agreed to that if we quit or was fired before April the 15th, we would not get our commission.
Well, I don't understand what the commission was. Is that a bonus?
The commission, yes, ma'am, it's like a bonus. It's on every tax return that I did. I get so much commission on that.
Let me see the contract that you signed.
It's not a contract, Your Honor. This is the people that I did from January, all of us in the...
Can I see the contract that you signed? Okay. So according to this, you started to work for him on January 1st, 2002. And you worked for him until what date, Ms. Tyler?
April the 15th at 9 p.m.
And how much are you owed in salary?
It's about $600.
Did you pay her salary for the last 2 weeks she worked for you?
The last pay period was actually about 8 days, and she did not receive that paycheck for those last 8 days, which
Why
would
not?
have been a gross of about $310, net of about $270. Ms. Tyler owed me $400.
For what?
From a loan I made to her February 1st. I'm not in the habit of loaning money to my employees, but she had a distinct need, a child who was very ill, who needed medicine, and if she didn't have that medicine, the child would either get very ill.
Did you borrow money from him?
Yes, I did.
How much?
It was $400.
Did you pay him back?
No, I did not. At the end of the tax season, when we went to the party, I had $200 in cash, Your Honor, and tried to give him that and ask him to bring the checks up there, and I was going to sign my other check over to him, which would have been well over the $400, but he did not want that. He asked me and my son to leave the commission party.
Just a second. When do you claim she left your employ, sir?
The last day that we have on record that she worked was April 13th. I have the daily time records from the last 2 days of the year, the 14th and 15th, and she did not work on those.
Let me see.
On the 15th, when I worked, Your Honor, Charlie is the one I called to the home office and asked him to clock me in.
Well, was that your general practice? To have
Yes,
somebody
ma'am.
else clock you in?
Yeah, we would either clock in on the computer and then we would call the home office and tell them what time we were in. And I worked from 9 a.m. or 9:30 that morning until 9 p.m. that night. That's when I turned my key over to B.J. Wade.
What key are you talking about?
To the office. All the employees had keys because on Sundays I worked by myself and I had to open the office.
Well, B.J., that's you. B.J. Wade, is that you?
Yes.
Step up, please. You were in the office on that day, is that right?
Yes.
On the 14th?
Yes.
Was the plaintiff there on that day?
Yes, she was.
Are you still working there?
No, I'm not.
How long did you work there?
The whole tax season.
Did you
January
get paid?
till April 15th.
Did you get paid?
Yes.
You know a Michelle?
Yes.
Was Michelle there on the 14th?
No.
Yes, she was. Time in 5, time out 9. She was there.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Peggy Tyler says former boss Tom Webb refuses to pay her because she refused his sexual advances.
How many people were you responsible for, madam?
6.
Of the 6 people that you were responsible for, how many worked until the 15th?
All of them but one.
Who was that?
Nancy.
So then the 5 people that you were responsible for get their commissions?
Yes.
Could you explain to me why she did not?
Because she owed the money, which she did agree to pay that back at the commission party, and he would not do it the way that she offered to do it.
Okay. Have a seat. Now, Ms. Tyler, let's address this theory that you have that the reason he's not paying you, according to your complaint, is that you did not respond to his sexual advances. You want to tell me about that?
He would look down our blouses and make comments about our breasts.
Tell me not our. Tell me what he said to you.
He called me a hot mama biker because
Okay, stop. When did he call you a hot mama biker?
It was in February.
Okay. Now, after February, And was the other comment that he made to you something about your breasts made at approximately the same time?
It was after that.
In what month?
Around the end of February, maybe the first week in March.
So that both remarks were made to you, being a hot biker mama, and the other thing you say is your boobs would make nice pillows.
Mm-hmm.
You attribute that to the defendant. Were made to you either in February or at the latest the first week in March. Is that right? Is that right?
Yes.
And you got paid the entire month of February. Is that correct?
Yes, I did.
And you got paid the entire month of March. Is that correct?
Yes, I did.
And when did you ask for this loan?
I believe it was around the end of February.
So none of the comments that he made to you so appalled you that you would be reluctant to ask him for a loan. Is that right?
Right.
So why let us assume that it's true for the moment, which I don't necessarily believe, sir. I want you to understand that. Why would you say that he was withholding your money because of this sexual harassment?
Because he didn't honestly believe that I would do anything about it. Because I'm not the only one that he cheated out of commission money, and years before that he did ladies the same way, which he doesn't believe women can hold any kind of an office anywhere because they're not smart enough. We're supposed to be seen and not heard. But, Your Honor, honestly, if it hadn't been for all of us women, he wouldn't have had offices.
Miss Tyler, if you didn't like Mr. Webb as an employer, don't go to work for him. You owe him $400. Now, clearly, he owes you some money, too. He owes you for 8 days, which, according to him, comes to what in gross pay, sir?
About $310.
Mr. Webb, I want you to figure out, sir, how much she earned in commissions. I assume that you've done that already.
Yes, ma'am.
And what would that amount be?
She did 133 tax returns, net to the company of about $14,000, which would have been $700 gross as a commission.
So altogether, we're talking about $1,010. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
From which we deduct $400. Now, it's really too bad that it ended this way. You being a nice person to make some loans. I think Ms. Tyler's accusations of sexual harassment are off the wall. If, in fact, you did say something stupid like that, I'll just chalk it up to stupidity. First of all, your sexual harassment is dismissed because you're suing him for $2,500. I want you to get that figure right out of your mind. Now, tell me about the deal with your sons.
They were to take the balloon down. BJ's husband put it up. They took it down.
How often did they take down this balloon?
Every night. It was 7 nights a week.
Really?
Yes.
And what was the agreement with regard to taking down the balloon?
He was going to pay them $100 each.
Do you have any agreement with the boys, sir?
I didn't know the boys existed until this was filed.
Really?
Correct.
Okay. Who do you claim he made the agreement with?
He made the agreement with my older son. He talked to him.
Come, step up. Tell me your name.
Jesse Tyler.
Tell me when you first met Mr. Webb.
I never met him before. I talked to him on the phone.
Tell me about how it came to pass that you spoke to Mr. Webb on the phone.
My mom told me that he wanted somebody to take the balloon down, and she told him that we could do it.
Tell me what you had to do.
It was out in front of the building, and we had to unplug it and let the air out of it and put it in the case and bring it in the building.
Mr. Webb, who did you think took the balloon down?
I was paying B.J. Wade and her husband, who took her to work and picked her up in the evening to do that.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Miss Wade, stand up. Yes. Were you supposed to put the balloon out and take it up? You were the office manager.
My husband put it up every morning at 9 o'clock.
Were you supposed to take it down?
No.
How much was he paid?
It was like $8 extra on my check a week to take it down. And I don't have the stubs with me. I didn't bring them.
Interesting. How did you know that it was this gentleman that you spoke to on the phone?
She told me, my mom told me.
Tell me how that came about.
We talked to him.
Tell me about that you talked to him. So far, I believe that your mother said to you, he wants you to take the balloon down, and he'll pay you for it, and he'll give you $100. I want you to tell me, and I want you to make sure you tell me the truth, because otherwise, you know, I'm unpleasant. You'll always trip yourself up if you lie. Do you know that? Mm-hmm. Did you ever speak to him on the phone?
Yes.
Tell me when, and tell me how that phone call came about.
It was in the beginning of January when the tax season started.
Go ahead.
And she answered the phone and told me that it was him, and I talked to him about it.
So you got on the phone, and what did you say?
I said that, what did you want me to talk about? You know, like that, you know.
No, don't buy it.
What?
Don't buy it. I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced it wasn't her husband. I have to be satisfied that he had a contract with him. That doesn't mean...
Well, they didn't put nothing in writing. No.
Can't hire a 10-year-old. Did your husband also pick you up from work?
Yes, but
yes, he did.
I did not work till
Okay,
closing.
judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $610, and that is for the wages and the commission that I believe you owe her, sir. Do you understand?
Yes, I do.
No sexual harassment and no balloon. That's all.
Now, this is case number 271 on the calendar in the matter of Scheibel versus Lukowski. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have seats, please.
Mr. Scheibel, the defendant was your son's hockey coach, is that right?
Correct.
And it is your claim that he filed false charges against you, alleging certain threats of violence and harassment. You want to be compensated.
Correct.
The defendant says that whatever charges he filed against you were absolutely accurate, and he has a cross-complaint because he said that you have continued to harass him.
Correct.
How long has your son been in a hockey league, Mr. Scheibel?
It's going on probably 2 years now.
And how long has the defendant been his coach?
I believe this is the first year.
Had they had difficulty from the beginning?
It seemed like it started from I believe, the first game.
Well, tell me about it.
Something had happened on the bench, I'm not quite sure, and then he accused my son of saying vulgar words. And then after the game, my wife had confronted him about it.
You weren't there?
Yes, I was there, but I was at a different part of the ring.
So this is when the trouble started. So maybe you can tell me. What happened at the first game, if you remember?
Steven Scheibel on my team was in the corner of the bench making gestures like this. I asked him if he was doing okay, and he said no. I thought he was ill. Therefore, he didn't go out the next few shifts. Another young man walked off the rink onto the bench and said to Steven, "Are you okay?" And I said, "No, he's sick." And he goes, "No, I'm not. F you." I turned to the other coach. I says, I was just cursed at again, which was several other times during practices as it happened.
This young man cursed at you other times?
Oh, yes, ma'am. This has been a constant problem with Steven Scheibel, his behavior. We as coaches have took disciplinary action by benching him. And in this particular case, I was the one that went and approached Mr. and Mrs. Scheibel outside the rink to advise them of their child's behavior. I said to Mr. and Mrs. Scheibel, I want to let you know of an incident that took place, what their son had said to me. Mrs. Scheibel then called Steven over and asked him if he said, "Did you say F you?" And Steven said, "No, Mom."
So he lied?
Yes, ma'am. And then...
Sure you did.
And then Mrs. Scheibel started yelling at me, "Don't be making things up about my son." And
so she's an idiot too?
Yes, ma'am.
Hey, before we get to any claims of false charges, let me tell you exactly where I'm coming from so you understand. Usually, fathers who participate as coaches do so because they love the sport and they generally like children. So that I have to assume that the man standing before me is not a psychopath and that the reason he participates in the sport is because he likes children and he likes the sport. So if somebody in authority comes over to you and says to you, "Madam, your son's got a toilet mouth," you believe him.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, now you're saying yeah.
I did. I believed him. That's why I went and got my son.
And your son said, "No, I didn't say it"?
I said, "You have to apologize to this man if you said that."
Stand up here. Yeah. Not if you said that. Not if you said that. How dare you open your mouth to him?
Right.
Because he just looked at me before and said, "I didn't say that." Right?
Right.
Yeah.
You're a liar.
I didn't say that.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. You may con her, but you don't con me because there's no reason for him to lie. You know how many punks like you I've seen in my life who have a fresh mouth? Tens of thousands. And the majority of the ones that continue to get in trouble come from parents who don't think that they do anything wrong, who blame somebody else. There shouldn't have been a question, "Did you say it?" No, not "Did you say it?" He said it. He lied to you, he lied to me. The only thing is, I call him. Now sit down. What happened afterwards?
Well, after we started taking disciplinary action against Steven regarding other incidences, one was he punched another player on our bench in the stomach completely disruptive, which led up to having him dismissed from the team. That's when all my problems started, Your Honor. I had death threats called to my house. I've had motorcycles show up in front of my house. Mr. Scheibel continually showed up at our games at 3 different facilities using profanity, and I'm not talking just trash talk. I'm talking vulgar words in front of all the children.
How many times did Mr. Scheibel show up at games where his son was not a participant? And give me the dates and the places.
13. I can go right through the dates, Your Honor, if
Can
you
you
like.
do that, please?
On August 4th.
Go ahead.
That's the time that Mr. Scheibel came after the other coach and I. On August 6th, he showed up at the Great Lakes Sports Facility in Fraser.
What were you doing there?
My son was supposed to be playing, and my son went down to the locker room, and the coach's wife, she had told him that he's no longer on the roster.
So did you stay or did you leave?
Well, I went down there to see what was going on, and she came up to me, and I told her, I said, why are you talking to me? You have a PPO out on me.
Who had a protective order against you?
Mark and the coach's wife, which I don't understand.
When was that issued, sir?
I believe it was 8-4 or 8 something.
The 8.
Can I see the protective order, please? All right, so now he knows that the kid's not on the team anymore. Now it's August 6th. If he ever knew
Actually,
before...
Your Honor, he had been advised the previous evening when...
Fine. I assume he knew the previous evening and he came down there just to test it. But when was the next time he showed up at a game?
On August 10th, he showed up at Joe Dumar's field house, a different facility that we were at. And
What were you doing there on the 10th, sir?
Was that the day, Stephen? Did he play?
Did he play on that date?
No, ma'am.
Was he scheduled to play?
No, ma'am.
What were you still doing involved with this hockey team, sir? Your son was kicked off the team because of his behavior. What were you still involved for?
He was still playing at this
Yeah,
time.
he wasn't kicked off yet. He technically was not kicked off until, I think it was August 12th.
Fine. After August 12th, did he show up at any game?
On the 12th, he showed up at Great Lakes Sports Facility in Fraser and threatened the other coach, his wife, and myself again.
What did he say when he showed up on the 12th?
He said that we better put his son back on the team. I haven't seen the end of him. I will pay. Basically, I don't know if it was this conversation. I better sleep with one eye open.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You said, my son better be back on this team or you better sleep with one eye open. That's a threat, and I believe you said it. Oh, yeah.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. David Scheibel says after an incident at a hockey game, his son's coach, Mark Lukowski Sr., filed false charges with the police. Mark says David threatened his life.
Now, on the 8th, there was a protective order issued. What was that based on?
Your Honor, I had received the threats, and he continually came to the facilities. I was for fear of my children and my family.
Okay.
I contacted an attorney. They advised me to go get a personal protection order.
Was that subsequently extended at any time?
No, Your Honor. They filed for motion for dismissal, and we went before the judge on August 26th. And at that case, the judge read Mr. Scheibel the Riot Act and advised him if he sees him in his courtroom one more time, he would be going straight to jail.
He has the minutes. Let me see the minutes.
Okay, great.
According to statute in your jurisdiction, statute requires 3 contacts that are unwanted after notice. He has to have notice. He does go on to say, now he's on notice. And if there's further contact with you or your son or your family, then you can come back to court. He was not happy with you. Judge is not happy with you. He didn't say he didn't believe what he told him. He said their statute requires 3 contacts. I don't know why it requires 3 contacts. 1 would seem to me to be sufficient. However, you have no right to come in and sue him. Absolutely none. If you put him in fear because of your conduct, then there is no question that by going to the games where you didn't belong, after your son was already on notice that there were problems, and you put yourself out there, he had a right to say, I feel threatened, and I'm afraid, and go to court and seek a protective order so that you would stay away from him. And the protective order is very simple, Mr. Scheibel. It says you're prevented from assaulting, attacking, beating, or molesting him, which you shouldn't do anyway. Interfering with petitioner at his employment, education, or engaging in conduct which impairs petitioner's employment or education, you can't do that anyway. Harassing him, approaching or confronting him in a public place or on private property, you're not to do that anyway. But it also says you're not to appear at his workplace or residence. They've laid those things out. The first part of this protective order prohibits you from doing what the law proscribes anyway. So what's your complaint?
He has no proof that I did all these
I believe him.
lies.
Oh, I believe him.
Well, I called
believe
his
that
house and made fire threats?
No. I'm discounting that. The court discounted that. I read what they said. They asked him, do you have any proof that he was the one who made those threatening calls? And he said no. I'm discounting that. I am not discounting the fact that you said, my son better be back on this team or you better sleep with one eye open. That's a threat. And I believe you said it. Oh, yeah.
No, I didn't.
Oh, yes, I believe you said it. Because I don't believe that somebody who gives up their time to coach a hockey team with children wants to be confrontational.
He's had 3 children walk off this team crying.
So
and
what?
now they're all on my team.
Good for you. I hope your son doesn't curse you.
If he had lied to one time, well, it says he didn't lie again.
What do you mean if he lied once? When did he lie?
About the motorcycles?
No. He didn't lie about that, sir. Listen to me very carefully. What he testified in front of me was that right after your son was dismissed from the team, he started to get threats. He started to get phone calls. Motorcycles started coming around his house. That's what he testified before me. He didn't say he saw you on the motorcycle. He didn't say he did the threats. He said it was coincidental. I'm discounting all of that, sir. I'm saying I believe him when he says that you said you better put my son back on the team or you better sleep with one eye open or you haven't heard the last of this. That's enough of a threat. Now, let's get to your counterclaim. I'll hear it.
Okay, Your Honor. On August 24th, my son Eric was playing a hockey game in the town that Mr. Scheibel resides in. At that time, Mr. Scheibel volunteered to be the scorekeeper during that game. At that time, he started making harassing comments to my son while he was playing hockey. A police report was filed and made, and intimidation and stalking was the offense, and I have a copy of that if you'd like to see it.
I'll look at the police report.
This was the day prior to going back to the PPO hearing. At that time, my son had to discontinue playing hockey at that place. He had made the...
Just a minute. Do you have copies of any of the emails that you allege that Mr. Scheibel sent to your son?
No, Your Honor, I do not. I was called while I was out of town that Mr. Scheibel had sent an email to my son, Eric, and basically it was a non-threatening one, although an intimidating one, by indicating...
I just asked you if he had copies of the emails, sir. I didn't
No,
ask
Your
for an
Honor.
explanation.
No, I don't.
Mr. Scheibel, did you ever approach one John Savage with regard to your son being thrown off the team?
The father? Yes.
John?
I don't know his name, but I believe that's his name, yes.
And when you approached him, your husband was around?
No.
You went back to where your husband was seated after you spoke to Mr. Savage?
Correct.
And your husband cursed at Mr. Savage?
Yes. I was crying at that time.
Your husband cursed at Mr. Savage?
Yes, correct.
And you told your husband to be quiet?
Possibly.
And that's because he was behaving badly?
Well, I do not like cursing, period.
Step up, Eric. Eric, I want you to tell me what it was that Mr. Scheibel said or did to you that frightened you.
When I would skating by him, he would always go, I'm over here, Eric. Come over here, Eric.
Is there any reason for that, sir? Is there any reason you were calling his name at hockey games?
I wasn't.
Why do you think he would say that you did?
I don't know, Your Honor.
Could it possibly be that because his father had a protective order against you, that you felt as if you could get his goat by making his son feel uncomfortable?
No.
You would never do that.
No, I wouldn't.
You're not a hothead.
He has tried to provoke me.
No, you're not
yes.
a hothead, is what I said.
No, I'm not.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
He's talking about approaching his son. He walked by my son and said, my son is going to kick your ass.
Bad behavior.
Very bad behavior.
Very bad behavior.
I also have a police report, too, Your Honor, that he has implicated my husband, my son, and another member in stealing, larceny from a building. We've been approached by people, oh, you're the people that have the PPO against you. Oh, you're the people that, stole tiles. He is just spreading rumor after rumor after rumor.
Well, the part about the protective order, that's not a rumor.
But, that was all based on lies, too, Your
No,
Honor.
it wasn't. Oh, no.
Phone calls? Did you...
Listen, are you not hearing me?
You said
are you not hearing me?
You were ignoring this, correct?
Are you not hearing me? I said to you, if somebody says you better sleep with one eye open or I'm going to get you, that's enough for a protective order, and I believe your husband said that to him. And I'm not interested in phone calls because he says he doesn't really know who made them. That's what he told the judge. He said, It just so happens that coincidentally, after Potty Mouth over here was dismissed from the team, he started to get all of these telephone call hang-ups. Now, it could have been your son, it could have been his friends, it could have been somebody else, it could have been your husband. Who knows? Maybe it was you. All I know is that from what I've read, stop flipping, what I've read, your husband's got a toilet mouth sufficient for you to have said to him, sit down in a public place because he cursed at another coach in front of children. Yes, and you had to say to him, sit down.
Okay, I realize, but Mr. Lukowski is saying this all happened after they removed my son from the team, which that is not true.
I don't care if it happened before or after or less tish above. Doesn't make any difference. Your case is dismissed. Period. End of discussion. As far as you're concerned, sir, I want to know if you think that you did everything right.
Yes, Your Honor, I did. I have the code of conduct that I have to sign as a coach.
Don't give me code of conduct.
And
I don't want to have code of conduct. I'm not talking about dismissing him. I think if he opened up a mouth to you once, get rid of him. If his father's prepared to tolerate that, because that's the kind of language his father uses, that's the kind of adult he'll grow up to be. But his mother says that you said something to him.
that is totally not true, Your Honor. I would never. I've coached hockey for 7 years, year-round, with 400 to 450 children under my direction and never had any problems. I'm there for the kids. There's no way I would intimidate a young man.
Well, let's see who heard this. Did you hear it?
No, my son.
Maybe I'll believe him if he says something that's truthful. Get up here. Tell me about a conversation or a statement that your former coach said to you after you had stopped playing ball.
Well, I was there to sub for another team, and I was standing there watching the other game. He looked at me and he's like, well, my son's going to kick your... Then he walked over to where his son was playing, like he was going to tell him.
And what did you do when he said that to you?
I just kind of stood there and went over to the locker room so I can get dressed.
You mean dressed to play?
Yeah.
And did you play?
Yeah.
Did anything happen at the game?
No, not really.
Your Honor, I do recall this instance and situation, although what I did is my son was playing in a different league. I said to my wife, I'm going to go watch Mark kick some butt, and I walked over to the rink to watch my oldest son play. I made no reference to Stephen Scheibel, never would.
Maybe he heard it and took it as directed to him.
I would never say anything like that.
Maybe. All right, listen, go home. Both of you, go home. What?
Well, after he kicked me off the team, a couple games during the playoffs, he let me play again.
So? It means he's a nice guy. I wouldn't have let you play again. You opened up a big, fresh toilet mouth to me, and you would have been in another jurisdiction, another state.
Your Honor,
Just a second. That didn't require an answer. What I'm trying to get through to him is his mother may believe that he never said the words that he said to you. He learned them at home. He sees that they're commonplace. If his father can say it, he can say it. There's no question his father said it because his mother said his father said it. If I asked his father would have probably denied it, just like his son did. It's a game. It's a game. It's a game. Goodbye.
Now, this is case number 160 on the calendar in the matter of Barrientos versus Randolph. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ladies, have seats, please.
Mr. Barrientos, the defendant was or is your sister's boyfriend.
Correct.
Is he currently her boyfriend?
Yes.
Your complaint is that he and your sister had some sort of an argument, and later on that day or the next day you became involved, and you claim he assaulted you.
Correct.
You want him to pay for your medical bills and for pain and suffering as a result of the assault. Mr. Randolph says he was merely defending himself. So why don't you tell me how this problem started with your sister?
Well, on the evening of June 5th, 2001, my sister Gloria and my nieces came to my house stating that there had been an argument at their home between Joanne and Sam.
So you have how many sisters?
4.
So some of your sisters came to you and told you
No, just my one sister Gloria and my 2 nieces, which are Joanne's daughters.
Told you that your sister, Joanna,
Correct.
had an argument with her boyfriend, and it had gotten physical.
Correct.
And what did they want you to do?
And they wanted me to call the cops.
Why couldn't they call the police?
Well, because they said that Samuel had pulled the cords from the phones at the house. So my sister asked me to call the police and have them sent over to their house.
You did that?
I did that, yes, correct.
And then what did you do?
And at that time, I left my sister and my nieces at my home, and I went to my sister's house. And upon arriving there, my sister was there, hysterical, and their house was wrecked because Samuel had broken stuff in their house. And the cops got there, and she gave her statement, and I told her that my sister and her other 2 children were at my home, and to get her, and I asked her if she wanted to go to my house to get some belongings together, come to my house, at which time we did. And
So Joanne came back to your house. Where's Joanne, by the way? That's you.
And when we got to my home, we sat down and talked about the incident, and she said that she was...
Why don't you step up here, please? Let me bring you back to June 5th. You had an argument with Mr. Randolph?
Yes. Well, it was between my sister and him, but I, got in it and I broke it up, because I didn't want them to argue, it's family.
Ultimately, you got into an argument
Yes.
with Mr. Randolph.
Yes.
Did it become physical?
No.
That's not true.
No, physical, no.
He did throw things around the house.
In the house? Yeah, the house was messed up. But
All right, so it became physical. It wasn't just a verbal fight. It became physical. Did he rip the phone cord out of the wall?
No.
Well, then why would somebody have to travel?
When I called David, I did tell him, that what was going on at the house and stuff. And I was probably the one that ended up calling the cops because I didn't want, for David to get there or for anything that, get any worse than it was already.
Joanne, I understand that you're sitting on this side of the table, which is the defendant's side. But I want to bring you back to June the 5th. Were you upset?
Yes, I was.
Were you frightened?
No.
Did you spend the night at your brother's house?
Yes, I did.
Why did you spend the night at your brother's house if you weren't frightened?
Early in the morning. I had to be at work at 4 in the morning.
So?
So I didn't want to be late. I wanted to go and get some rest before I had to go to work.
Joanne, let me explain something to you. You have to say things that make sense. What time do you go to work every morning?
At 4 in the morning.
4. And do you sleep at your brother's house every night?
No, I don't.
You sleep at your house every night?
Yes.
So on this particular night, you just told me you wanted to stay there because you didn't want to be late.
Because my kids were already at his house. I wasn't going to run my kids back home and then back over there. It was already late.
How long does it take?
Like 25 minutes.
He says it takes less, right?
Correct.
All right. Well, even if it takes 25 minutes, you take your kids home so that your kids are sleeping in their own bed. So you stayed at your brother's house because you were upset. Is that a fair statement?
Yes.
All right. And your brother was going to take you to work in the morning?
Yes.
Did you have your own car?
Yes, I did.
Where was your car?
Gloria took it to go to the house.
So your car was at your brother's house?
Yes, it was.
And yet your brother took you to work the next day, which is when this incident happened.
Yes.
Why did your brother take you to work the next day instead of you driving yourself?
Because I was going to lend Gloria the car, that's why.
Is that why?
Yes.
Why did you take her to work?
Because she had the kids to go to school.
Why did you take her to work?
Because she said she was afraid of Samuel because he had threatened her, and we locked her vehicle in my garage, Your Honor.
You locked it in the garage, why?
Because he had been calling my home all that evening and passing by my house, and she said that she wanted to leave because of that fact, and I told her, don't worry, we'll lock your car in my garage, and I will take you to work in the morning.
Fine. And is that what you did?
Yes, ma'am.
What happened when you got there?
Upon arriving at Sam's Club, we saw his vehicle parked there, and Joanne got, started
You were
getting
at
hysterical.
the place 4 o'clock in the morning?
Yes, I was.
What were you doing there 4 o'clock in the morning?
I figured I'd go there earlier to try and resolve, see why she left, because the argument wasn't even between me and her.
She left, so you went there at 4 o'clock in the morning.
To talk to her to see why she was so caught up.
And what happened when you got there?
Well, when we got there, Joanne got off her car and she ran into her job. And
just a minute. When you got there, did you all see his car?
Yes, ma'am, we did.
She didn't go up to his car?
No, she did not.
Is that right?
Yes.
Why didn't you go up to his car?
Because I was going to work. I wasn't.
You mean you didn't?
I had 5 minutes to get in there, and I was not about to go and talk in the parking lot when my manager's waiting.
Not even to say hello. Not even to say hello.
No, my manager's waiting for me at the door to go in. He closes the door after I get in.
All right, stop. You think I believe you? Do you think I believe you? Think anybody believes the story that you're giving me? You went into the place because you were at that moment afraid of him and didn't want any confrontation with him. That's why you ran into your place of business. Go ahead.
And after that, she ran into her job, and I went over to the car and I approached Samuel.
You went over to his car?
Yes, I did.
Mr. Barrientos, That's your first mistake. But let's take it from there. Getting out of your car and going over to his car was your first mistake. What happened when you got over to his car?
When I got to his car, I was telling him that why was he there stalking my sister and waiting for her at 4 o'clock in the morning, and why does he continue to bother my family? Why can't he just leave my family alone? And he said that he was not going to leave my sister alone, that it was his fiance. And I said, no, she's not your fiance. He said, yes, she is. And he continued arguing, and we continued arguing about the incident. I told him, look, Samuel, I told him, I'm tired of all the abuse you've been giving my sister. I mean, I've never gotten involved with you guys before, but this has gone too far, and, you know, I'm just tired, and why don't you just move on and leave them alone? And he stated that he was not going to leave them alone, and that he had a gun in the car, and that he had a gun in the car which he was going to shoot me and my sister. And at that time, I gave my sister my cell phone to call 911, and when I turned over, he punched me. He got me by my shirt, and he slapped me into the corner edge of his door, at which time I dazed out, and he continued hitting me and threw me on the floor. He just continued hitting me on the floor. My sister came on. She yelled that she had called 911, at which time he got up and got in his car and left.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I grabbed him by his shirt, I threw him against the car, he falls to the ground, and that's when the fight broke out.
Did you drive by his house at all that night?
No, I did not.
Yes, you did.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. David Barrientos says his sister's boyfriend, Samuel Randolph, assaulted him in a fit of rage. David says Samuel was stalking his sister.
What kind of injuries did you sustain?
I sustained an abrasion on my left cheek and on my knees and bruises on my shoulder.
Do you have any medical reports or photographs?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to see them, please. All right, Mr. Randolph, let me hear your version of the events, sir.
Okay. The night before the fight happened, I believe that was June 4th. Me and Gloria had got in an argument.
This is Gloria?
That's Gloria, yes. I came home from work that day, and Joanne's oldest daughter's boyfriend was there, and we began to talk. And he told me, you know what, when you're at work, Gloria's talking stuff about, she's talking to Joanne, telling her all kind of stuff, why she shouldn't be with you. And I was like, well, why did she say this? At the time, her and her family was staying with us. She didn't work, her or her husband, so I was supporting them. So later that night, her daughter and her boyfriend, they leave, and I confront Gloria. I was like, look, Gloria, if you're gonna be living here with me and everything, I'm gonna support you guys. Don't talk about me, and please, not behind. If you have anything to say, say it to me. Argument broke out between me and her. At the time, Joanne was asleep in the house. Me and Gloria were outside. Gloria goes in and wakes Joanne up, talking about, well, do you see what he's saying to me, that I'm gonna have to leave and all this and that. And Joanne wakes up, she was like, well, what's going on? Me and Gloria, we started arguing. Joanne broke us up. Joanne told Gloria to take the car and just leave.
Yeah, but you got upset, Mr. Randolph. You were throwing things around the house?
Not at that point.
At what point?
The argument had escalated outside, and when she left, I came back in and I hit a glass, and the glass shattered on the ground.
What else?
That was it. Wasn't nothing thrown. I didn't pull the phone cord out of the wall or nothing like that.
Well, what did you throw the glass for after she left?
I just ran. I was upset. I went in and I hit the glass. Just a stupid part of them.
Hit what glass?
It was a big glass mirror.
What did you break it with?
My fist.
Go ahead.
Me and Joanne started talking about the incident. I guess
talking or arguing?
Talking at the time. I was kind of ready. She was trying to calm me down. I was the one upset.
You were very upset.
Oh yeah, I was. After the police arrived, that's when David came back to the house. They asked Joanne, well, did she have anywhere to go for the night? And she said, yeah, I can go with my brother. So she went to her brother's house. I went to my mother's house.
Just a minute, but you started calling the house.
My mother called the house to speak to Joanne to see what was going on. At the time, David told her, don't effing call here no more. Okay, so we didn't call no more.
You didn't call?
No, I did not call.
Go ahead.
So the night went on. I left the house possibly about 3:15, meet her up there about 3:30. At the time, she hadn't arrived yet. I stepped outside of my car, and I seen her brother and Gloria pull up. And Joanne walks inside of her job, and she.
Did you call after her?
Yeah, I called her name out.
And what did she do when you called her name
She
out?
turned around and looked at me, and she walked right in the door. So I get back in my car and get ready to leave, and David approaches me. He gets out the car, yells at me, "Why in the F are you still messing with my family, this and that?" And I look at him and like, "Look, this is getting out of hand. This has nothing to do with you." So I turn around and get back in the car.
When did you get out of the car? You didn't tell me you got out of the car.
When he approached me.
He approached you. You were still in your car.
Yeah, when he started, I thought he was just coming over to talk to me, so I got out the car. As soon as I got out the car, he started yelling at me.
All right, so he's yelling. Go ahead.
I go around to open my car door. He pushes me in the car, and then he slams the door on my leg.
Did you have injuries?
I had a little abrasion on my right knee.
Let me see.
The police report states that the officer seen that. I don't have no pictures or anything.
Let me see the police report. Go ahead. So he pushed you in the car, and he slams the door on your leg.
Right, my leg is still hanging out the door when he pushes me in the car. And he starts to walk back to his car. Well, I jump up, and I rush him.
Yeah.
You know, I grab him by his shirt, I throw him against the car, he falls to the ground, and that's when the fight broke out.
Okay. He pushed you into the car. What kind of car do you have?
It was a Cadillac at the time.
And then you said he slammed the door on your leg.
Right.
Bird, you know I'm not very good at these technical things, so I'm going to need your assistance to help work this out in my head. If you're in a car and somebody slams the door on your leg, you know, you get your leg caught in the door.
Right.
Would you step out a little bit over here? Could you show me where you think on your leg that car door might hit?
I mean, I'm 6'3", Judge. Difference of height, but if I fell in, it probably hit me around just below the knee.
And where do you
Around
think
the
it
calf
might
area.
hit him?
Usually just below the knee, I would say about the calf area.
At the
That's
calf
a good
area?
guess, yeah.
That's where it would strike me that it would hit you if the car door is slamming on your leg.
I don't know I don't know the exact time that I got cut, whether it was when he pushed me into the car or when we started fighting.
Right. So there wasn't an injury as a result of this door slamming on your leg, because the only indication here is that you had an abrasion to your right knee.
Right.
Now, if you're going into a car, it's your left side that's out of the car, not your right side.
I guess the abrasion happened when we were fighting then.
Then I guess it did. So you had no injury as a result of this alleged pushing into the car, right?
Right.
But he had some pretty serious injuries, sir.
I tried to walk away from the incident, yeah.
No, sir. You went there at 4 o'clock in the morning for a reason. Did you expect her brother to be there when she...
No, I did not.
Right. And she clearly didn't want to speak to you. Did you drive by his house at all that night?
No, I did not.
Yes, you did. Why didn't you stay in your house that night?
I just went to my mother's house that night.
Right. So you were in your car. Because you could have stayed at your house. She wasn't there. You went to your mother's house and took a quick drive-by around his house before you got to your mother's house. So you were mad. And at 3:30 or 3:45 in the morning is not the time to have a discussion with her when she's going to work. You know that. Mr. Barrientos.
I also have one more thing to state. Go
ahead.
On that same week of this incident, my sister stated that she didn't want nothing to do with Samuel no more. And that same 2 days later, we went and I rented a truck. We took all her stuff out. We put it in storage. Some of it is stored in my garage. And she moved in with me, and she continued to live with me for the next 6 months.
Really?
Until they got back together.
Joanne, how come you didn't tell me that? I thought you just went to your brother's house so that you wouldn't be late for work the next day.
That was true. That's what you were asking me. That's why I answered you that.
So, and you decided to live there for 6 months? Hama?
Yes.
Let me give you a piece of advice, sir. Never get mixed up with somebody else's domestic situation. You see how they made up? They're like lovebirds again.
Right.
You're not talking to your sister's not talking to you. She's mad at Gloria. Gloria's mad at her because you got involved with her domestic situation, right?
Correct.
They're all smoochy-dutchy and lovey-dovey, right? And now the family is estranged all because you try to do the right thing. However, the wrong thing is to stick your nose in somebody else's business. It was the wrong thing for you to get out of your car and go over to Mr. Randolph that morning. You drop your sister off and you leave. That doesn't mean that you're entitled to be assaulted.
Correct.
And I believe that you were. Mr. Randolph, you got to watch your temper, sir. How long are you back together again?
It's been about a year.
And how long have you been together, all told?
3 years.
How many times have you had the police out to your house?
3 times, about 3.
Why?
My temper.
Your temper?
Yeah.
Has anybody ever said to you that you should at least try anger management?
Yes.
Is there any reason why you haven't availed yourself of an anger management program?
No, not really.
Were you drinking at the time of this incident?
I had a beer earlier in the day.
So it's not alcohol related.
No.
It's temper related. You got to learn how to take care of that, sir, because you're going to end up hurting somebody else, or you'll end up having a heart attack and dying yourself. Neither one are very smart. In any event, on this case, judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,500. Thank you.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Schwab versus Fadin. Step forward, please.
Office manager Bonnie Schwab is suing travel agent Giancarlo Fadin for the cost of 2 tickets to Greece. Bonnie says she won the tickets in a raffle, and Giancarlo reneged on the prize.
Ms. Schwab, you were the lucky winner of 2 tickets to Greece.
Yes, I was.
About 2 years ago.
May of 2000.
And where did you win these tickets?
At the Valley Greek Festival that they have every year in May.
Was it a raffle ticket?
It was a raffle ticket. A girl I work with, her children go to school there, and I bought tickets.
And due to circumstances, according to your complaint, you were unable to use the tickets for a while. The defendant had donated the tickets. You have a travel agency, sir?
Yes, Your Honor.
Now you want to use the airline tickets. The defendant says you waited too long. That's your defense. Is that pretty much it?
Pretty much it.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Bonnie Schwab says after entering a raffle at a Greek festival, she won 2 tickets to Greece. Bonnie claims travel agent Giancarlo Fadin is trying to renege on the prize.
Do you have a copy of the stub, your contest stub, or any other literature from the contest?
I have a letter from the church stating that I won first prize in the raffle.
Okay. All right, and that was in May of 2000.
Right.
Did you schedule the trip?
We scheduled a trip. Mr. Fadin gave us an itinerary when we went to see him in
Who's we?
My boyfriend at the time. We went to see him, and he wrote us an itinerary. We discussed with him that we would like to go to Italy. Mr. Fadin said we could go to Italy instead of Greece, so he prepared an itinerary. At
And
that
this
time,
was done in January?
Of 2001.
And when were you planning to take the trip?
May of 2001. Subsequently, due to circumstances beyond my control, I was not able to go with my boyfriend. So I called Christine, Mr. Fadin's wife, and asked them if I could put the trip off until October of that year. And they agreed to, of 2001, and they agreed that they would do that.
So far, is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Then what happened?
Well, then the summer passed, and then September 11th happened. I was afraid to travel, especially to Europe. Being an American, I didn't know what would happen. The airlines and the airports were crazy. So I wrote them a letter and faxed it to them in October, and I received no response. I asked them to call me.
Do you have a copy of that letter?
Yes, I do.
Okay, do you acknowledge receiving a letter from her?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
Your Honor, we have a standard letter that we send to the organization. We donate to the Italian community, in this case the Greek community, because we specialize travel to Europe, especially Italy and Greece. And the letter pretty much states...
Well, let me take a look at the letter that you say that you send to everybody, but you didn't send it to the plaintiff.
Well, we wouldn't have, because we would have sent it to church.
No, but you,
I never saw that
just a
letter.
second. You say here that the tickets are valid for 1 year from the date of the prize drawing. and this is dated March 15th of 2000. I have no idea when this was typed, Mr. Faden, but certainly you cannot impugn the information here to the plaintiff unless it was written on the stub that, you know, grand prize, 2 tickets to Greece, trip must be taken within 1 year.
We donate the tickets to the church with the intent of creating goodwill in the community. The church is then raffling and selling the tickets and collecting the money from, in this case, Ms. Swab, and we have no responsibility on that.
You do. You have responsibility for the 2 tickets, sir. First of all, you agreed to put...
We have donated the 2 tickets to church.
No, you have donated the 2 tickets, not to St. Nicholas Church, Mr. Fade. You have donated the tickets to be used as part of a raffle. I don't see what your problem is, Mr. Faden. It would seem to be now, if you wanted to purchase 2 tickets to Greece, it would be a lot cheaper than it was 2 years ago.
Well, let me explain. After September 11, my company lost $200,000. When the lady called to postpone her trip, I wasn't even sure that I would be in business the following spring.
But you are in business.
Well, thank you. I worked very hard for it.
Good, but you are in business, so you have to give her tickets.
I would like to call my witness at a certain point, Your Honor.
To say what?
Because she really dealt with pristine strategy most of the time.
More than happy to hear from the witness if she has something else to say.
No, I can stand. Your Honor, I don't know exactly what to say. I think I do understand that there was perhaps a miscommunication between the agency and the church and perhaps Ms. Schwab. However, when September 11th came, again, as Giancarlo has said, we really didn't know where we stood, and perhaps it's difficult for somebody who doesn't work in the travel industry to understand. There were literally envelopes, I mean loads of tickets coming back. Every phone call was a cancellation. It came so late. It came 2 years later, and I understand
well, it didn't come 2 years later. It came 1.5 years later.
1.5 years
And
later.
you had already agreed to allow her to take the trip in October.
I understand that.
So
but
if you allowed her to take the trip in October, despite the fact that you really didn't have any choice, but you said, okay, you want to travel in October, travel in October. And then the events of September 11th, which you acknowledge devastated your business.
Totally.
You had no time to respond to this letter that she sent.
No,
because you were
really.
trying to
I
keep
was
your
too
heads
busy
above water.
Correct.
So you acknowledge that it was a tumultuous time.
Absolutely.
In your world, it was this important. This whole trip was this important as it related to the rest of the world. But bottom line is, you donated these tickets. She wants the tickets. She feels comfortable enough now that the world has calmed down enough so she's prepared to travel. And you have to furnish her the 2 coach class tickets that she won, that you donated. Just do it. That's your goodwill. Goodbye.
This is case number 318 on the calendar in the matter of Purdue versus Higgins. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have seats, please.
Mr. Purdue.
Good morning.
Good morning. According to your complaint, sir, you gave the defendant rings pursuant to a relationship that the 2 of you were in.
Yes.
And she was living with you for a brief period of time, and you claimed that there was a promise that if the relationship did not turn out, she would give you the rings back. You claimed that the relationship did not work out, she left, and you don't have the rings.
Yes, ma'am.
The second part of your lawsuit is a claim for a small loan. I think it was $40-some-odd, yes, in order to permit her to get a restraining order against a boyfriend of hers who was supposed to be an abusive boyfriend,
yes,
who she subsequently went back to.
Yes, ma'am.
And you want that money back.
Yes.
And Ms. Higgins says that she did not have a relationship with you, that she was really nothing more than a housekeeper for you, a housekeeper/companion, that the rings were a gift. However, when you said you wanted them back, she went over to your house and threw them in your yard. Is that
Yes,
right?
Your Honor.
How long have you known her, Mr. Purdue?
Approximately 9 months.
Where did you meet her?
Met her in a bar. She was my buddy's girlfriend at the time. I met her. And before the night was over, she was sucking my fingers and everything, wanting to...
Your Honor, that's a lie. Listen to me. I don't want you to get into anything that I don't have to hear in order to make this lawsuit. Do you understand? There are certain things that I don't have to hear graphically. She was making advances towards you. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Within a week, she had broke up with this guy, and she called me and wanted me to move her out of there. I move her into my house.
How did she get your home telephone number?
Oh, I was more than anxious. I mean, I was a willing party at the time.
Okay,
You
go
know,
ahead.
I was impressed with her, and she was a hot number in my book. But within a week, she'd moved into my house. I tried to, lead a normal life and everything, but she just didn't have it in her. 3 days or so, and she'd be gone all night. Then she'd come back in the morning, smelling like a billy goat, and I'd kick her out, and then the telephone calls would come back again, and we're back in another relationship again. This girl needs help. She doesn't have a job.
No, she doesn't need help. You need help.
Yeah, okay, I agree.
Okay.
I agree.
Tell me about the rings, sir.
Okay, I'd bought the rings in 1987 for my
what?
wife,
Mm-hmm.
and she's deceased of 3 years. And because Liz always identified so much, she told me, she says, I feel so close to your wife and everything. I know. Yes, I give her rings. And I told her at the time I gave them to her, because we had such a rocky relationship, we've been together and kicked her out several times. I've had the police drag her out from the door. Anyway, when I gave them to her, I says, because these rings mean so much to me, if this doesn't work out, I have to have the rings back. She agreed. We were engaged 3 days.
You mean when you gave her the rings, you thought that they were given as an engagement?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, did you ask her to marry you?
Yes, ma'am.
What did you say to her?
I said, Liz, will you marry me? She says, yes. To me, that was a contract. 3 days later, she stayed out all night. I presume now it was with Ken.
This is the boyfriend.
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
This was the one at the $42 is about. But where was I now?
You were giving her the rings that were so sentimentally valid for you because you had bought them for your deceased wife in 1987, and you gave them to somebody who came home every third night smelling like a billy goat.
Yes, ma'am. Okay.
That's where you were.
She just 3 days we were engaged. She goes out that night, spends out all night long. I don't know where she was or anything. I broke off the engagement. I'm driving her back to her mother's house. And she says, Bill, please let me have the rings for a couple of days. I says, why do you want the rings? She says, I want to save face in front of my family, my wife, my mother, and my kids. I says, okay, but I've got to have them back. When I went to get them back, she absolutely refused.
Okay. And then she's going to tell me that when you said, give me the rings, I want the rings, I want the rings, she came over to your house and you threw them in the yard. Is that right?
What happened was he had started driving by my house and calling all the time. And one day he came over and all I had on was a T-shirt. He came in and he tried to hug me and he grabbed my breasts. At the time,
Would you get to the rings, please?
Okay, I was with Ken. Okay.
Good for you. Would you
Ken
get to
told
the
me
rings,
flat out,
please?
this is what he said. He said, I want you to prove that you're done with Bill Perdue officially, okay? So we got in his van, he drove, we drove by, and I threw the rings in his yard and called to let him know that they were there.
You're an idiot. All right. Strike you. Strike you. Now, let me go through this with you, Mr. Perdue. She told you at some point in between her going out in the evening that she had to get a restraining order against him. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And what did you say to her?
I went with her down to the town court. We did file a temporary restraining order. I gave her the money. She filed it. A month later, you go back and make it permanent in front of a judge. But the night before, we'd gone out for a couple of drinks, and she started to fight for no reason. I've got no idea why she's so mad, but she's starting to fight. So I says, you got to fight? I said, I don't care. But she said, okay, I'm going to court tomorrow by myself.
Your Honor, there was no argument.
I found out that she went to court. As soon as Ken walked in, they went outside for a long time. She came back in and dropped charges on that very
Fine,
day.
that still doesn't make this a loan, sir. Mr. Perdue. It doesn't make it a loan.
She asked me for the money.
Your Honor, he told me he was giving me the money.
Miss Higgins, don't interrupt me. That doesn't make it a loan, Mr. Perdue. She asked you for the money. You gave her the money.
Yes, ma'am.
That's a gift. That's not a loan. So let's
Sure.
just deal with the rings. All right. Now, Miss Higgins, I want you to tell me your version of the rings.
Okay, he had bought these rings, okay? They were sitting in his house, okay, in a box. Finally, one night he comes and he says, he looks right at me and he says, Liz, I know, and these are exact words, I know that you're probably never going to marry me, but I bought these for you. They're your rings. I took the rings. It's that simple.
So you were really nothing more than a housekeeper for him.
He and I...
Shh. That's what you say in your answer. That you took care of the house, you cleaned up, you cooked, and you were a companion. Is that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
So it was a job.
It wasn't necessarily a job. I mean, we were both benefiting from it. I was staying there and taking a break from my house, and my mom's handicapped, and I take care of her. So I was taking a break from that. And he was benefiting by eating and having his house clean.
So that It was a barter arrangement, but still a job. You got free room and board, and he got his house cleaned.
Right.
And his refrigerator replenished with cooked food.
That's right, Your Honor. I bought the groceries.
Shh. Then can you explain to me why he would say to an employee, you're probably never going to marry me, but I bought these rings for you?
Because
so you answer me.
That's the reason I left, Your Honor, because he started getting obsessive. And at one point in time, he started referring himself to me as Daddy.
Okay, let me ask you this question, Ms. Higgins. Do you believe that if you hadn't taken the rings and encouraged a relationship, if I believe your story, you say, no, I'm not, Mr. Perdue, I'm not taking these rings from you because you're right, I'm not going to marry you, I am your housekeeper. Do you think that he would have become obsessive?
He was already, before we had lived together prior to this, he had already become obsessive. See, I stayed with him for a while before, when he was telling you that he met me through a boyfriend I had at the time.
Yes.
Okay? And I would invite him over at that time to cook meals for him, okay? Because I knew his wife had just died. I had heard all kinds of different things about him.
Okay.
So anyway, back then, he asked me to come and stay, okay? And he was missing home-cooked meals, and at the time, that's all he wanted, okay? And I was staying with him. Then he began wanting more, and he wanted sex and different things, and I moved out at that time, too. Now, this time he promised me it would be different.
Now, what prompted you, if he wanted all of these things, what prompted you to move back there?
Because we had been friends without me living there. We had just remained friends.
Is there any reason, Miss Higgins, why when Genius over here told you that he wanted to know that you were finished with Mr. Perdue once and for all, and according to you, you drove by the house and threw the rings in the yard, you couldn't do the civilized thing, which would have been to put the rings in a box, take it to the post office, and mail it to him?
Your Honor, at that time I was very angry because the reason this conversation between Ken and I even started in the first place. In fact, can I call him up here, Your Honor, for this?
Oh, I would love to hear from him.
I can. But anyway, the thing is that I was angry because he was driving by the house and we were getting phone calls, and my kids had told me.
Why didn't you just give him back the rings?
Because my kids had told me.
Why didn't you just give him?
I didn't want to see him.
Why didn't you just give him back the rings?
He was obsessed with me, and I didn't want to see him.
You don't have to see him. Mail him back the rings.
I was extremely angry.
What were you angry about?
Because my kids had come to me and told me that he was trying to bribe my kids.
Why didn't you just return the rings?
I was angry, and I just went and threw them in his yard, and I told him there they were.
Listen.
Because his threats, he was threatening that somebody was looking around for him to beat him up and everything else. And I was so fed up with the guy.
You want to say anything to me?
Yes, Your Honor. Her and I have had a rocky relationship, but the thing is, I'm tired of the phone calls from him. It's 7 o'clock in the morning every day. He's come in between our relationship enough times. Well, he was a nice guy when I met him, but he got worse and worse, and it just conflict between him and I. He would kind of come by the house in the middle of the night.
You don't think that she's partially responsible for that?
I think they're both responsible for some things.
Fine, right. The fact that you are not sleeping with him, sir, doesn't mean that he's more responsible than she is. She took advantage
Your Honor,
of him.
I wasn't sleeping with him.
I didn't say you sleeping with him, madam. I said the fact that he's not sleeping with him.
Oh, okay.
You see, the reason he's angry with him is because why should he be angry with you? The two of you share a bed together. He says you're equally responsible. The two of you are equally responsible. Well, the reason he's mad at him instead of you is because he sleeps with you, and he doesn't sleep with him. Now, do you understand that? That may be confusing to you. Not you.
No, I
him.
understand.
Now, you understand. All right? So, they're equally responsible, but not really. She's more responsible. You want me to tell you why? Is your name Ken?
Yes, ma'am.
Ken.
Judge.
There's no fool like an old fool. He's an old fool. Do you understand?
Yes, I do.
Got a younger woman, makes him feel younger, makes him feel stronger, gets a little obsessive. She encourages him a little bit. She encourages him a lot because she's got to get away from one boyfriend, she moves in with him. She's got to get away from you because things aren't good, she moves in with him. She moves in with him, then she takes off and goes with you. She gets a restraining...
Your Honor, that's not
Quiet! She gets a restraining order, preliminary restraining order against you. She's saying, poor me, I'm a poor victim, everybody's abusing me. And she said a lot of things about you in order to get a restraining order, sir. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, it is.
What did she say about you in the restraining order? Did she say that you were abusive?
Yes.
Did she say that you were threatening?
Yes.
Did she say that she was afraid of you?
Yes.
Was all that true?
Parts.
Parts, but parts not?
Parts not.
Were you abusive?
At times.
Really? Were you physically abusive?
There was some pushing every once in a while.
Every once in a while. He never pushed her.
That's not what I was told either.
No, just a minute. A little obsessive, maybe. but didn't do half the things to her that you did. And then she made up some stuff along the way, according to you, when she made out that report, right?
I'd assume so.
What do you mean you assume so? You got a copy of it, sir. You read it, right? That's why you showed up in the courthouse that day. And when you saw it, Ken, did you say to yourself, she's lying about some of this stuff? She's a liar?
Well, see, I didn't ask her any questions. I had no contact.
Did you say to yourself, she's a liar? I never did that. On some of the stuff you did, right? So here we have two people on one side, and you now tell me that she's a liar.
I don't say fully
a liar.
Oh,
If you lie, if you
like
swear to an application for a protective order under penalties of perjury, and you lie, that makes you a liar.
Yes.
Right.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today,
she threatened my mother. She threatened all of my friends. She threatened to put antifreeze in my dog's food bowl.
You have to stop.
I have.
Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
You have to stop.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Bill Perdue says ex-fiancée Elizabeth Higgins owes for the cost of 2 heirloom rings. Elizabeth says she threw the rings into his front yard.
Listen to me. I find that these rings were given as an engagement gift in contemplation of getting married. And when Miss Higgins accepted it, she may not have been serious about accepting them as an engagement ring.
Yes.
She may not have been serious, but she led you to believe she was serious. I don't believe her story that she was the housekeeper and cook your chicken every other Tuesday and Thursday and maybe a brisket on Friday. I don't believe that.
No.
And if she wanted to return them, then she does the reasonable thing. If she, in fact, returned them at all by throwing them in your yard, she puts them in the mail and returns them. So I don't believe she returned them at all. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,850. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I'm very glad she's got a new outfit. She looks like a kind of little Catholic girl.
We were just true friends, and I truly believe that. I believed he was a good friend to me, but obviously I was wrong.
I think I'll probably start going to church now instead of hanging in the bars picking up women.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Leonard versus Norris. Step forward, please.
23-year-old bartender Amanda Leonard is suing her boyfriend's estranged wife, 22-year-old market research analyst Jennifer Norris, for harassment.
Miss Leonard, you are in the process of dating the defendant's present husband, soon to be her ex-husband, and it is your claim that the defendant has been harassing you. 30 seconds or less. Tell me how she's harassing you.
Yes, ma'am. It started a long time ago. After they broke up, she cheated on her husband and moved to Reno before we ever started dating. I have a tape, I have an audio tape of the very last message she left me after I had told her that I had already made a police report on her. She's
fine, I'll hear it. Why did you say such nasty things to her, Miss Norris?
And that's
I know I made these harassing calls, and I know it was wrong.
Why didn't you acknowledge that when you filed your answer in this case, Miss Norris?
I was very, very angry.
Why were you angry?
She was my friend, and I kept telling her, you know, I feel like Travis is cheating on me. I feel like something's going on with somebody else. And I never told her that I thought it was her because I didn't want to make her feel awkward, you know. And then it was her. And they had been together for, in my mind, I'm thinking about a year that they were messing around. And he kept telling me, no, I'm just selling drugs to her because he's, you know, they are drug addicts and stuff. And I was very angry because I thought she was my friend. And I realized that that was the wrong thing to do, was call and make those things.
When was the last time you made a harassing call to her?
I don't even remember the last time.
When was the last time?
This last message was made on the 31st, I believe, of September.
Of this year?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No. I live in Reno, Nevada. I have no reason, you know, I live 3 states away.
Doesn't make any difference. Phones reach 3 states away.
I didn't call her. I mean, that's fine if, you know, that's what they're saying.
You have to stop.
I have
Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
You have to stop.
Yes, ma'am.
It's finished.
Yes, I realize that.
Over.
I realize that.
What else?
She also threatened my family. She threatened my mother. She threatened all of my friends. She threatened to put antifreeze in my dog's food bowl. She threatened to key my car and slash my tires.
Did she do any of those things?
She didn't do any of those things.
Good. And she's not going to do any of those things, so she's not going to call you anymore. So I want you to be happy in your new life.
I am.
She's not going to bother you anymore. You don't bother her anymore. They're going to get a divorce when?
January 17th. But I have a question. We are not legally separated. There's no paperwork. And I can call over there to speak to my husband.
No,
I have
don't
the
call.
right to.
Listen to me. What do you want to talk to him about? Do
A
you have children?
divorce.
Just a minute. Do you have children together?
No.
Do you have a lawyer?
Yes, I do.
Then whatever you want to say to him, you say through your lawyer.
I just want the divorce done, and they won't
Just listen
help
to
me.
Who won't help you?
They won't, like, go do anything. They won't go file the papers, nothing. And I'm like, I live in Nevada, so I have to wait. In January, it'll be 6 months I've been there, so I will have residency so I can get a divorce there.
Fine, Miss Norris. And that's what you do.
That's what I'm trying
Listen
to
to
do.
me. She would probably like you to have a divorce. I'm speaking. She would probably like you to have a divorce. He's not so anxious. He's not so anxious because she wants to get married, right?
Well, eventually, hopefully.
You say eventually, hopefully. Me? She would like to get married tomorrow.
Are you talking to me?
No, I'm not talking to you.
About me, though?
Sort of. Sort of. But I didn't require an answer because I wasn't talking to you. In any event, Miss Norris, in January, which is right around the corner, you are going to be able to get a divorce whether they are cooperative or not. Don't call him. That's holding on to something that doesn't exist anymore. Move on!
I have definitely
Good.
moved on.
Goodbye.
Now, this is case number 196 on the calendar in the matter of Kleiser versus Stewart. Kleiser been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have seats.
Thanks, Bert.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Kleiser, you and the defendant were engaged to be married. The wedding was called off because Miss Stewart had a change of heart, I gather. And you want certain things returned. A loan that you allegedly made to her. A wedding dress that was purchased, I assume, with your money. And the setting for her engagement ring, because you had a diamond that she previously owned, set by a jeweler. I assume she still has the ring.
That's correct.
All right, let's deal with simple things first. How much was the wedding dress?
It was $2.99, and there was a garment bag that cost $10.
Now, who paid for that?
That was on my credit card.
So you're still paying for it?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you get the wedding dress physically from the store?
Yes, we did.
Who returned it to the store?
I returned it to the store.
Is that what you wanted him to do, return it to the store?
Yeah, he took it. He said he wanted it back, and he was going to return it for credit. And he wanted me to take the credit. But
that sounds right.
I didn't return it. He took it back.
Well, what were you going to do with it?
I wasn't going to do anything with it. I wanted him to take it back.
Fine, then you have to pay for it. The wedding dress is your responsibility. If you changed your mind, there is certainly, if he had gotten it to... If he had gotten a tuxedo for the wedding, and he called off the wedding, and the tuxedo was put on your credit card, do you think that it would have been right, would be right for you to pay for his tuxedo?
Well, if I kept the dress, I could understand that I would need to
No,
pay
you're not
for
going to
it.
keep the dress. You're going to get a credit. So the next time you decide to get married, you can go and buy a new dress and pick out a new dress at the same place where you picked out this dress.
Okay, but I
Do you
have
understand?
no,
You
I
have
have
no
no
what?
plans to get married, so I
Well, I
don't
want to explain
need it.
something to you. Does the place that make wedding dresses also make tuxedos?
I don't know.
What do you mean you don't know? Don't be coy with me.
They do.
They make wedding dresses and bridesmaids' dresses and mother of the bride's dresses. So the likelihood of him getting married in a bridal dress are much less likely than you're getting married again and choosing another wedding dress. That be reasonable? You owe him $309. Now, let's take care of the setting on the ring. She used her own diamond. Is there any reason why you didn't buy her a diamond?
She offered to put it into a wedding band. That way it would save some money.
Fine, well, that sounds like a very good idea. And you paid how much for that?
$250 for the ring, and then for the labor to set it, it was $50.
Where's the ring?
I didn't bring it with me.
Fine. This is what I want you to do. Take the diamond out of the ring and give him back the gold in 5 days. You owe him $309. I'm taking off $25 because the most somebody's going to charge you to take out the stone is $25.
Okay. Now, so then do I get that credit for the bridal store, the $300 credit?
Oh, yeah, he's going to give you the credit. You understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
You have it with you?
I have it right here.
Perfect. Give it to her.
There it is.
So now we're easy with that. Take care of those two things. Wedding dress and setting. Now let's get to the loan. Talk to me.
She had asked me to put a computer on my credit card. The credit card was Best Buy. They had a no interest
Were you
finance.
living together or just...
We were just dating at the time.
Okay, go ahead.
There was also a camera put on the same thing. She didn't have the credit herself, so I put it all on the
Camera
same.
for?
She wanted a Canon camera. It was also with no interest financing. It was something she wanted. So I put everything on the credit card, and we had agreed on a certain amount to pay off every month.
No, tell me about it.
Agreement was
Look at me.
every month she would make payments basically on the 15th of each month. The total amount would be about $130. She made one payment in March. Everything sort of happened with the wedding being called off, and that sort of put an end to all that, and then she decided that everything was just basically a gift.
Now, you see how quiet you've been? Let's hear about the computer.
Okay, the computer, I had a little laptop computer that wasn't compatible with any of the printers because the UB...
Don't tell me about computers
Okay.
and things that
And
they
so
exchange back
he
and forth.
had-
I don't understand that.
He had said that I should get a new computer, and I told him I couldn't afford a new computer. I was going to school. And so he had been looking at the Best Buy ads, and he said right now that there was zero financing, and he had purchased a TV, I believe, at the zero financing, and he said we should go look at them. And so we went and looked at them, and they were, they had good deals on them, but I couldn't afford it, and he knew that. I told him I couldn't afford it. I'm a single mom. I'm going to school, and he said, don't worry about it.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Maybe she doesn't want your ring.
That's up to her.
Oh, no, it's up to me. That's why you brought me the case.
And later today,
The phone rings, and I pick it up, and she goes, well, I was just letting you know that if you call my woman again, I'm going to F you up. And it was her girlfriend, Tony, calling.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Keith Kleiser says ex-fiancée Katara Stewart owes for her engagement ring, wedding dress, and an unpaid loan.
What about the camera?
I needed a camera for a photography class that we were doing, and he had brought that home to his house and gave it to me as a gift. He handed it in the box, and he said, he gave it to me and said, have fun with this.
Did you pick out the camera?
No, I was not with him when he got the camera. He brought it. I was waiting at his house.
Now, what's this $118 payment that you made to him?
That was actually for insurance because I was borrowing his car, and I told him that I would make the insurance payment, and that was an insurance payment. It wasn't any payment for a computer or camera. It was for
He wants
the
to show me something that's different. Let me see what you have, sir.
I've got a breakdown of everything, how it became, what the payment was. The camera was included.
All right,
in
all
the
I want to see is I don't want to see what you wrote out here. I thought you had a.
There is
I
a
thought
check
you had a
there
check.
for it. That is my check.
When was the stuff purchased? March 3rd?
March 3rd.
Both the computer and the camera were purchased on March 3rd?
The camera was purchased in January. It was originally intended to be a gift. She told me that she couldn't accept a gift of this magnitude. It was just too much, and she wanted to make payments.
Get a
So-
life. Give that back to him. Give it
That's-
back to him, Bird. Just cooked his own goose. All
That's-
right, so the camera was in January, and it was originally purchased as a gift, but then she said, I can't take it because it's too expensive to give. That what you're telling me?
That is correct.
Sir, get a life. Get a life. You lie once, you don't get a second chance. You're getting back the setting for your ring and $284. You've given her the credit, $309, which she now has. Okay, but you are entitled to that money so that you can put it back into your bank and you can pay off your credit card bill. But I've deducted $25 from that wedding dress so that she can go to a jeweler and have the jeweler take out the stone and return the setting to you so that you can go and sell the gold. Do you understand what I've done?
There's no need to do that.
Why?
Really, to take the diamond out of a ring, there's really no point in doing that. It does me no good. Does
Well,
her
what
no
did you
good.
want? You're not entitled to have her pay you for it.
I don't want to have her take a ring completely apart and have no use for it, because I don't have use
Maybe
for
she
it.
doesn't want your ring.
That's up to her.
Oh, no, it's up to me. That's why you brought me the case.
That's up to
So
you.
you're going to get $284. $309 less $25. That's judgment for the plaintiff. With regard to the other things, I find they were, in fact, gifts. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
He was very unreasonable about trying to settle anything.
I had a buyer for the computer. I was all set to go. She refused to give it back.
When people get hurt, you can't try and get money back.
It didn't have to go this far. It really didn't.
It just wasn't there to get married.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Gladue versus Culpepper Sedgwick. Step forward, please.
Administrative Assistant Heidi Gladue is suing her former friends, 23-year-old customer service rep Michelle Culpepper and 19-year-old customer service rep Wayne Sedgwick for trashing her belongings.
Miss Gladue, for some reason you were living with the defendants for a brief period of time with your daughter. This didn't work out. They asked you to leave. Is that right?
That's correct.
And you left, but when you left a lot of your property there. And it is your claim that at some point they took your property and threw it in the dumpster.
Yes, ma'am.
So you want them to pay you the value of the property that you claim they disposed of.
Yes, ma'am.
The defendants say they gave you plenty of opportunity to get your stuff out. They had no obligation to keep it. And finally, when you didn't come pick it up, they disposed of it. Correct?
Yes.
All right. Now, how did it come about that you and your daughter went to live with them?
I was going through some personal problems at the time, and Michelle and I had become really good friends, and I told her I had to move out of my apartment, and she said, well, you can come stay with me, your daughter, and you can come stay with us. You don't have to worry about anything, you know, just come and stay with us for a little while until you get up and off on your feet again.
That sounds like a very nice thing. She sounds like a lovely person.
Mm-hmm.
And so when did you move in with them?
It was the first weekend of July.
Okay. You moved with your daughter. Did you come with any furniture or just your personalty?
Everything that I owned that was in my two-bedroom apartment went with me. I had told Michelle beforehand.
You mean she had no furniture?
Well, she had furniture in her house too, but we had one of the rooms of the apartment that she was staying at, so most of my stuff went in there, and then in the kitchen where they did not have a table and stuff, that's where my couch went.
They're really nice people. Okay, what happened?
There was a misunderstanding one day where we were, according to Michelle, inconsiderate of her feelings.
Like?
Well, her mom was missing one morning, and nobody could find her. And Wayne, Lois, and I were sitting in the living room. And
Who's
to kind of
Wayne?
lighten the mood.
Who's Wayne?
Wayne is the other defendant. To lighten the mood, Wayne and I decided to tell Lois about this incident the night before that Michelle had bent over to pick up something and kind of fell, and we were kind of laughing about it. And she felt that we were being insensitive to the fact that her mother was missing.
So?
She asked us to leave, that we could stay the weekend if we needed to, and that she wanted us out.
Go ahead.
I told her that I was currently on unemployment at the time, so I was waiting for my unemployment check to come to me. I told her I needed some time, and she said that was no problem.
Okay.
On the 16th, I received my unemployment check in the mail. I went and I got a U-Haul truck and I got my storage area, which I have all receipts for. I told her that I would be there the following morning at 11:30, that if anything should change by that, I would give her a call. Unfortunately, that morning, my mother was admitted for pneumonia in the hospital, which I have documentation of, and I did not get out of that out of the hospital until about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I called her at work at about 3:30 and told her what was going on and that I would be there tomorrow at 11:30, and she said fine. About an hour later, she called me back and said that her and Wayne had something to do and that they wouldn't be back at the apartment until around 1:30. So I told her, fine, I'll be there between 1 and 1:30. So as far as I was concerned...
On the 18th?
On the 18th, that I would be there between 1 and 1:30. On the morning of the 18th at around 9:30, I received a voicemail message from the defendant, which I have a copy of on tape. So, and
which said?
Pretty much said that her mother had received 3 more threatening phone calls, her apartment manager received 4, and that I could get all my stuff out of the effing dumpster.
Okay. Now who's going to speak?
I will.
Good, thank you.
When everything happened where I asked them to leave, it was just like she said, you know, the thing happened with my mother there in the living room joking around. And I let them know that they had 1 week, exactly 7 days, to get them and their property out of my house.
Okay.
They left that day and came back, I believe, 2 days later and grabbed some clothes and stuff. After the week was up was when I started calling Heidi. Because she had called, and it was like, one day she told me, you know, oh, well, I'm waiting to get my check and it didn't come and da-da-da-da-da. And then I ended up having to, I was at my mom's for something. I can't remember exactly why, but the phone rings and I pick it up and the lady on the phone asked if I was Michelle's mother. And I said yes, because I didn't know who it was. So I just kind of went, yeah, who is this? And she goes, well, I was just letting you know, B, if you call my woman again.
I don't understand.
If I was letting you know, if you call my woman again, I'm going to F you up. And it was her girlfriend calling. I'd already had problems with it before, and I did know the voice when I heard it. And so I went home, and I called Heidi, And I asked her, you know, what is this with calling my mother's house? She was on the one with my mother's number because my number, I'd called her to her cell phone from my mom's house. So
was somebody that you had lived with?
Her
my
girlfriend.
significant other, ex now.
Was that the person that you moved out of that home because you were having difficulty?
Yes.
I was trying to help her. I thought her and her daughter get away from me.
Okay, go ahead.
But she claimed, oh, I haven't even talked to, and she said something about, you know what, I'm sick of even dealing with you guys. You can just throw the out because I don't want it. I don't want to deal with you. And she started ranting and raving, so I hung up the phone.
And when was this? Do you have any idea what day this was?
The 12th. It was the day she was supposed to have her stuff out.
Okay.
And
what happened next?
The next morning, she called saying that she still hadn't gotten her check and da-da-da-da. And I was like, okay, last night you were screaming you didn't even want the stuff, and then today you called me calm, telling me that as soon as you get your check, you'll be there and all this stuff. So I left it alone. I was like, fine, just come get it when you can. When she still didn't come get it, there was 2 other phone calls where she had ran it. I don't want it, and I don't want to deal with you, and you guys can this and that, and just yelling. And so I left it alone. I ended up where I came home on the 16th or the 17th, I can't remember, and Wayne told me to check the machine because there was someone on the machine and he wasn't sure if it was Heidi or her girlfriend. Well, on the machine, it was a message from her saying, you know what, F you guys, I don't want to deal with you, I don't want to see you throw this stuff out because I don't want it. And she repeated herself about 3 or 4 times. And
Do
I
you
know
have that
she,
message?
I erased it because I didn't think it was going to come to all this. Honestly, when I listened to the message, I wasn't going to throw it away. It was later on the 17th, I was at work and my mother called me. She said someone was calling her house threatening her. I asked her to look at her caller ID. She looked at it and she recited her cell phone number to me. So I called my play sister, a friend of mine, and I told her I'm leaving work early. You know what? I'm not going to have my mom being threatened. Let's just get her stuff out of my house. I've given her more than enough time. This was now the 17th of July. I told her on the 5th she had basically 5 days. So I didn't, it was like I felt I'd given her enough time. She had on 3 or 4 different occasions said she'd come get it, then she'd say she didn't want it. So I didn't want to play with her anymore. I didn't want my family threatened like that. So my friend came over, I left work early, we threw her stuff out.
You think she had all this aggravation before you and your daughter moved in?
I do. I think she
do?
had it planned personally.
Had what plan?
Had to plan to throw some of my stuff away because I had told her before I moved in that I would get a storage area for
No,
my
no, no,
belongings.
Miss Gladys, listen to me. That doesn't, just think it through. You think she invited you into her home for the purpose of throwing away your stuff?
I don't think for throwing away. I don't think she threw away. I had a $2,000 entertainment center. I had a 27 color inch TV. I don't know anybody that would leave that stuff at their place. I had a bed.
Just a
I had
second.
2 beds there.
Just a second. Did you call Salvation Army?
I was going to until the threat to my mom was made.
Miss Gladys, bottom line, she has no responsibility to keep your stuff in the house.
Right, but we had a verbal agreement for me
I
to
did
pick it
not.
up. She
Not
told me
according
that
to
I
her.
could, you know, she told me that I could keep my stuff there. I told her I was waiting for my check to come in the mail. Unfortunately, EDD took 10 days to get me my check.
She's not responsible for your bad fortune. My question to you is, do you think she had this grief in her life with threats to her mother?
I do think
threats
she
to the
had grief, but I was not responsible for those threats, ma'am.
You were...
I can't control somebody else who I'm not with. I
But
haven't
she was
been
riding
with
in
her.
a car with when she was supposedly broke up with her.
No, I was not.
I mean, if I was doing it, I had to get my mother's number from her.
She couldn't have because I don't keep phone numbers on my phone.
Whatever. She had problems. She was trying to do the right thing. Miss Gladys, she is under no obligation to keep your property. She's not your mother.
I never said she was. She was supposed to be a friend, and friends
She was a friend.
A friend throws your stuff away when you have a verbal agreement to be there at 11:30 in the morning.
I've said it, Miss Gladys. That's all. Your case is dismissed. That's all.
Case number 106 on the calendar in the matter of Ward versus Price Ward. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Mrs. Ward, the defendant is your son, and the co-defendant is his fiancée or girlfriend. You have children together,
Yes, ma'am. Not together. I have a son and she has a daughter.
but they live with you.
Yes, ma'am.
I've read your complaint very carefully, Mrs. Ward. This is your husband?
Yes, ma'am.
According to your complaint, you claim that your son assaulted you in his home and that his fiancée was present, and while there is no claim that she assaulted you, she did nothing to prevent it.
Correct.
I don't know why you're standing up as a plaintiff, just to give moral support to your wife, sir?
Well, not only moral support, but I was there also because I wanted to stop the situation with my
You
boy.
were there on the evening of this alleged
Yes, I
assault
was.
with your wife?
Yes, I was.
Why were you and your wife at your son's home?
Okay, my wife had called my son up. She wanted to talk to him. This is through a prior conversation. She'd been trying to deal with him for a while.
About what, Mrs. Ward?
Go ahead.
About the TV and the VCR.
Tell me about the TV and the VCR.
My son and his wife, Ben, were having problems. Sean had sold everything in his house. He didn't have a good job like he does now. I mean, he was doing work, piecework.
Just a second. I read your complaint very carefully. Let me see if I can make this, because this is just a background to the story.
Okay.
Your son came to live with you for a while.
Yes, ma'am.
He was supposed to pay you rent, $50 a week.
Right.
He didn't pay you the rent.
No, ma'am, I did pay. Okay.
You claimed he didn't pay you the rent. And you said, when you move, you'll leave me the TV and the VCR for the rent. And then when he moved out, he took the TV and the VCR.
Yes, ma'am.
And the reason you and your husband went over there that night was to take back the TV and the VCR.
Yes, ma'am.
Now tell me what happened when you got there.
They were eating dinner. So we went in the living room while they was eating and watched TV. The children were there too, eating. They got done, came in and gave us a hug, you know, and Michelle was getting them ready for bed. And so Sean says, well, you're here, what do you want to talk about? And I said, the TV and VCR. He said, I knew that's what it was going to be about. And he stood up. I said, he says, I do not owe you anything, Mom, nothing, and I want you out of the house. Well, I have a book right here where I kept notes, and his signature is on it. And I said, son, I have proof. I opened the book, and that's when he stood up and got very angry at me and told me to, I don't know the words he said, to get out.
Get out of the house.
And actually, I didn't really believe him. I meant, he's my baby son, and I believe in his
Just
word.
a minute. So he told you to leave his house at least twice?
Yes, ma'am.
And then what happened?
And I said, you're kidding, Sean. He said, I'm not kidding. Baba. He said some other words. And I said, then I'll go up and get it myself. I know I can't. Look at me, how much I weigh. I knew I couldn't get it myself.
Where was your husband during all this time?
Can I speak? I was in the living room.
So you were in the living room. So your
Yes.
wife was going to go upstairs and take the TV and the VCR. That's what she said she was going to do anyway.
That's correct.
So she started up the stairs, and what happened? Mrs. Ward.
Well, as she proceeded to start upstairs, first of all, I was shocked on the whole situation, the anger he threw at his mother. As I seen this anger, I just kind of looked at him and said, you know, you shouldn't talk to your mother that way because she is your mother, irregardless, you know, what she says or does. She proceeded to go upstairs. I went with her upstairs to slow her down and said, honey, I think we might as well go ahead and leave. And she says, well, I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to stay right here till he either gives me the VCR and the TV. And at that point, he says, well, I'm going to call the sheriff. She said, well, go ahead and call the sheriff. And he just got angry at that point. He says, well, the heck with it. As I was proceeding to hold her back a little bit from proceeding upstairs, then he turned around and got angry and turned around and says, well, by God, I'll get her out. Then he jerked her off the step, holding onto the steps, threw her on his back. I told him, do not hurt your mother. He says, oh, I'm going to put her out if that's the only way I can get her out. Then I heard a big old thud in the living room, and I come running in there. She had hit the floor. I don't know if he dropped her or what happened. She was really hurt, and at that time she was speechless. She was shocked, and she says, I am going on my own. You don't need to manhandle me anymore.
Incorrect.
So he proceeded to pick her up by the arm, straight up, head on out the door, all the way to the car, slammed her into the car. She hit her head on the door as she went in. And at that time, he just said, this is where you're going to stay, get out of here. So that's as far as it went. Why I didn't do anything. People says, well, why didn't you get a pipe and hit him over the head? First of all, he's my son. I do love him. I love my wife both. They're trying to make a choice so quickly, and I'm not really much of a match to go jumping ahead and start doing something to my son again to his house. So there's a lot of thoughts had to go through my head. And
Was your wife drinking that day?
No, she was not.
She had anything to drink of an alcoholic nature. Just
No.
make sure.
She doesn't.
She don't drink. She might drink a little something. It wasn't alcohol that
Okay,
had
so
anything to do with
this was not alcohol related. She was in total control of her senses
It was drug
when she
induced.
came to your house. Is that right?
Drug-induced, not alcohol.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
That was part of the deal. It showed
Deal, Schmiel, listen to
I
me.
gave him a place to live, Your Honor.
Big deal. He's your child.
And later today,
The relationship was quite expensive.
He gave me a promise ring.
She was constantly asking for money.
He promised to marry me.
I felt that I was being taken advantage of, literally.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Donna Ward says her son, Sean Ward, assaulted her while she was visiting his home. Sean says his mother was belligerent and refused to leave.
You take prescription medication?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Now, you have photographs of your injuries?
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to see them. The marks that I see on your arms are consistent with being picked up by your arms.
Yes, ma'am.
That was your injury.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, I'm going to let you tell me your side of the story, Mr. Ward.
Okay.
Okay. First of all, the case is dismissed for all purposes against Miss Price because she did not participate in this,
Correct.
other than to stand by and do nothing, which is the same thing you did, Mr. Ward. She's not even married to him. You're married to her. Why would you sue Miss Price?
Because I felt like, just like he did, tried to get Sean to calm down, I was hoping that maybe she...
Your
I don't
husband
know.
didn't come to your defense. Why would a stranger?
Not for me, for her husband. I thought maybe she would ask Sean to stop. I mean... That's all.
She's not a party to this case.
Okay.
So, tell me your version of the events. Your mother came to get...
yes,
your mother
ma'am.
came?
My mother came to the house. I had paid them $100 a week instead of the $50 that she was agreed on to pay. So therefore, she knew the TV was paid for. She let me take it on wheel out the house. The only reason that I had any confrontation with her at all, because both my 5- and 6-year-old kids were standing in the living room, that she had asked for them to be present. I thought maybe she had a health problem that she was getting ready to tell us about. And when she did come up with that situation, I did get angry, but I did stand up and ask them both to leave. I opened both the doors, and I said, y'all need to leave. And I might have said it a little meaner, to get out of my house.
Right.
They would not leave.
Ultimately, you picked her up and put her out of the house.
Yes, ma'am, I picked her up
And
off
that's
the
what
steps.
and that's what the marks are on her arm.
That possibly could be.
All right. This part of the case is pretty easy. Mr. and Mrs. Ward, you are not entitled to any damages. You entered his home with his permission.
Exactly.
Then he asked you to leave. You refused to leave. At that point, you are trespassing on his property. He asked you to leave again. You still would not leave. The law permits him, as I'm sure the judge told you in court when you were there on the criminal case, that he has the right to use reasonable force. Can't shoot you. He can't stab you. But he can physically take you and move you out of his property, which is exactly what he did. Now, the fact that I don't understand why you are there trying, if your son is finally back on his feet, and he's now got a good job, and he's got a home, and he's got 2 kids that he's taking care of, why in the world you would make a big deal out of a television set and an old VCR, I haven't a clue. But I'm not going into that.
Okay.
Because there's no logical reason why you would go to his house and create a scene with 2 children there to get back a TV and a VCR that you think was owed to you for rent.
I did not. I let the children go upstairs. I've asked him without the children being around.
I don't know why you would ask for it at all.
Because, ma'am, that was part of the deal.
Deal, Schmiel, listen to me.
I gave him a place to live, Your Honor.
Big deal. He's your child.
I know, and I'm his mom. I did not want to do this.
Well, you shouldn't have done it.
Sean knows in his heart that he said, I believed in his word. And if
Mrs. Ward,
yes, ma'am.
how many children do you have?
I have 7.
If your child has not been doing well for a while, as you said, he'd been in and out of your house, and he was finally, according to you, finally got a good job and back on his feet, what mother in her right mind would say, now I'm going to take the television set that you watch and the VCR that you watch or that the children watch in their room? There's no excuse. You could talk from today till tomorrow. I have children.
I know.
And for $250, you went to the house to make a scene?
No, ma'am, I did not intend to make any kind of
Of course
scene.
you did. Because
No,
once
ma'am.
he said to you, I'm here for the TV and the VCR, and he said, I don't want to talk about it
I
now,
only
please
started
leave, then you decided to go upstairs and you said, I'm going to take it myself. That's creating a scene.
I didn't think that I was very smart, Your Honor.
Oh, fine.
But he had
Good.
gotten a big, huge television, and I figured that he knew we were down. That TV would have helped us. We were down, and there was nobody helping us.
Stop it. Your children aren't supposed to help you. You're supposed to help them.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Donna Ward says her son, Sean Ward, assaulted her while she was visiting his home. Sean says his mother was belligerent and refused to leave.
You were arrested for assault,
Yes, ma'am.
and those charges were dismissed.
Yes, ma'am.
And I assume that they were dismissed, Mr. Ward, because they ultimately determined that you had the legal right to put your mother off the property.
Correct on
Is
her
that
own
right?
testimony. I didn't even have to testify.
Right. You can't sue her.
Right.
Here, you can't sue her.
Correct.
The district attorney determined that there was sufficient evidence to go to trial with because your mother had your fingerprint marks on her arms.
Correct.
Why she proceeded that far, I don't know, but she did. So you have no right to sue her for false arrest because you did, in fact, put your hands on her. You weren't in fear of your life from your mother.
No,
You
I'm not-
weren't in fear of life, and certainly not from
No,
your
ma'am.
father because he didn't do anything.
No, ma'am. I intended no harm, and due respect to you and her, I do love my mother. Only thing I have here is the bills that I had to pay, my lawyer bills,
You
and
shouldn't have put your hands on your mother.
then been out.
You shouldn't have put
You're
your,
absolutely correct,
You shouldn't
ma'am.
have put
But
your hands
I
on
was
your mother.
looking
Pay your
forward-
own bills.
I was looking forward
Case
to
is
my
dismissed.
kids.
That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I have always believed in his word, and if you can't stand by your word, what else do you have?
He's upset with the fact that he's fighting with his mother, I mean, which no person wants to be, and I just wish it would all be over with.
I would like us to be a family. I don't know if that's possible.
What I wanted was just my name to be cleared, and that happened. So I'm very happy about it.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Brown versus Valero. Step forward, please.
Home health care provider Greg Brown is suing his ex-fiancée, insurance claims assistant Christina Valero, for an unpaid loan. Christina says Greg forgave the loan when they began dating.
Mr. Brown, you claim a loan to the defendant.
Yes, ma'am.
When she was in some financial difficulty.
Yes, ma'am.
The loan was for rent. The loan was for, I think, $2,300.
Yes, ma'am.
You were paid back $200 from a relative of hers.
Yes, ma'am.
With an outstanding balance of $2,100.
Yes, ma'am.
However, she says that you forgave that loan after you started dating. Is that what your defense is?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. When did you meet her, Mr. Brown?
Early September.
Of what year?
2001, ma'am.
And when did you make this loan for the rent and under what circumstances?
She came to me, she gave me a phone call and said that she was going to be thrown out of her apartment. I gave her the loan under the conditions that she would sign an IOU and pay me back.
Can I see it, please? I assume that's the piece of paper you have.
Yes, ma'am.
Your Honor, I typed that letter, and
I wasn't speaking to you.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Well, as we persisted on our friendship, grew into a relationship, the relationship was quite expensive. She was constantly asking for money. $100 here, $100 there. I felt that I was being taken advantage of, literally. So she had told me that she was going to a dinner party with her company in Santa Rosa, and she was supposed to come back that night.
When was that, sir?
That was September 28th, I believe.
Still during the month of September?
Yes, yes. She refused to come back because she said she fell asleep in her car and was there all night. Well, I'm not exactly a fool, so I figured that she was doing something she wasn't supposed to do. At that time, I figured her irresponsibility to the relationship was not what I was looking for, so I dismissed it.
So you terminated the
relationship? Yes, I did.
Okay, and you asked her back for the money?
Yes, I did.
Okay. I'll hear from you, Miss Valero.
we started as friends, and I was in a financial difficulty at that time, and he offered that he would help us.
Who's us?
My daughter, my sister-in-law here, my son.
Go ahead.
I even typed a promissory note thinking that I would really pay him. And then he said, we went out to dinner, and he said he's interested in me. And we started dating, and then he gave me a promise ring, which is this.
All in the month of September.
Yes.
Go ahead, keep going.
And then on my birthday, he gave me this.
When's your birthday?
December.
Now we're jumping to December.
Mhm. Well, the whole month of November, we were fine. Then we broke up for maybe 2-3 weeks because of that incident that I went out with my friends.
Could you get to your defense, please? I'm really anxious.
He promised to marry me. He asked me to marry him.
Yes. When did he ask you to marry him?
Like November.
And what did you say?
And I said, okay, we'll, if our relationship is going good,
I'm waiting for the defense.
Please.
Finally, all of a sudden, he told me that his mother died. I tried calling him and calling him.
I'm getting weak. Would you tell me what your defense is, madam?
There is no defense.
He disappeared on me.
Yes.
And he told me that when we're together, the loan is gone.
He said if the relationship gets that deeper, you don't have to pay me back the money.
Yes.
So it didn't get that deep. So you have to pay him back the money. What is
Yes,
so hard
Your
to
Honor.
understand?
Yes, Your Honor, it got deeper because we tried looking for a house and we were talking about marriage.
So?
He even put away an engagement ring for me.
It sounds like he was a very nice man. He's not asking you for the jewelry back.
He is.
No, he isn't. Not in this lawsuit.
Yes,
He's
he
not.
told my sister-in-law here.
He's not
that he
asking
wanted-
for. Listen, this is his one shot at a lawsuit. He's not asking for the jewelry back. He knows that was a gift.
That's right.
He knows he can't get the jewelry back. Jewelry that looks very nice on you, and I'm sure you enjoy wearing. This was a loan. And if he forgave the loan, what you do is you say, if you forgive the loan, Greg, if you forgive the loan, could I have the IOU back that I signed and I typed, and I'd like to rip it up. We'll have a ripping up IOU party. That's what you do when he forgives the loan. Meanwhile, you have to pay him back his money. Stop being a gold digger and a taker. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,100. That's all.
Now, this is case number 156 on the calendar in the matter of Gray versus Ashpole. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat.
Mr. Gray, you and the defendant dated briefly while she was separated from her husband. And according to your complaint, during that time you made 2 loans to her. The first loan was for an attorney, and the second was to catch up on a mortgage payment. The defendant says you never made any loans to her, but did give her money. Is that right?
Yes, it is.
Now, when did you meet her?
It was during bowling season.
I don't know when bowling season is, sir.
About 2001.
Excuse me?
In the fall.
Can you get any closer by, say, month?
Okay, August. How's that?
August of 2001.
Yes. And we were just friends up at the bowling alley, sitting there talking and, joking around. Eventually, right
You
around
met
St. Patrick's Day. All right.
We're going to have a conversation here, which means
Okay.
you'll talk and then I'll talk.
Okay.
Did you meet her at bowling?
She was a waitress. I was a bowler. Yes.
When did you separate from your husband?
In June.
So you were separated at the time that you met the plaintiff, is that right?
No, we were friends when I was at work. So I knew him while I was still married, yes.
But in August of 2001 is when you started to date him?
No.
When?
May of 2001.
And when did you separate from your husband?
In June.
Okay. Shh. When was this loan for a lawyer?
Roughly August
Is that
2001.
right?
July of 2001.
Now, I'd like you to tell me the circumstances surrounding that, sir. You're not very good at dates. Let's see if you're better at the substantive part of it.
On the lawyer. She come up to me and she was having trouble and she wanted a divorce from her husband.
But you were dating at that time.
Yes.
Go ahead.
And I had a good lawyer friend that I referred her to, and he cut her a deal and gave her half of the retainer fee. So I gave her the $750 in cash so she could go get things taken care of. And at that point, I made her understand it was still a loan to her, not a gift.
How did you make that clear, sir?
Just by talking and told her what I
Well,
said.
I want you to tell me
and
what
then
you said and what she said.
She told me she would pay me back within a reasonable short amount of time.
She said she would pay you back.
Yes, she did.
Now, what's your version of the lawyer story?
The lawyer's story is that he had
Look at me.
this great friend that worked on his divorce case, and I needed to get this started. And he gave me the money.
Now, what did you say to him and what did he say to you?
Let me give you the money. Let me help you. Let me give you the money to get it. Otherwise, where are you going to be? You're not going to have an attorney. I'm sorry, I'm not looking at you. You're not going to have an attorney without any money. Let me help you.
Mm-hmm.
There was nothing ever about any loan.
Well, why would he give
any
you,
payback?
Why would he give you that money? Why would you not expect to
He
pay
wanted
him
my
back?
divorce.
You wanted a divorce. Why?
I think actually he wanted it probably more than I did.
No. No. Why would you think that you should not pay him back?
Because I didn't, at that particular time, I did not have the means to pay him back, and he knew that. I had told him that, and then this is also about the mortgage.
So you didn't get to the mortgage
I know.
yet.
But I knew that I have 3 children. I'm not getting child support. I'm a working mom. I'm not going to give up my home. At one point, I even had 3 jobs to support my means.
Okay. Now tell me about the mortgage payments, sir.
Well, she was
That's the
behind.
second loan.
She was behind 3 months in her mortgage.
How did you know that?
She told me.
Where were you when she told you that?
We were probably just sitting in her room, bedroom.
Go ahead.
And she said she was 3 months behind. And she asked if I could help her out. And I said, yes, I can. But again, I loaned her the money. And I made the payments.
Now I'll hear you.
I have never asked him to give me money. I have never asked him to loan me money. I never asked him for anything. We might have been sitting on my bed talking, and I was venting because I was very upset. I was behind. I was not getting any help from my husband that had moved out. But I had never asked him for anything.
You told him that you were 3 months behind in your mortgage payment. How did he pay the mortgage payment?
Actually, I was paying bills, writing things out.
On the bed?
Because I had it out, right. I was paying my other bills that I could afford to pay. I could not afford to pay this. He took the statement out of my hand, picked up the phone, and made a check over the phone to pay the mortgage. And I was telling him,
Is that
no,
right, sir? You paid
please
it over
do
the
not
phone?
do that.
I made it by Visa, yes.
You made it by Visa over the phone?
Yes.
And I kept saying, please do not do that. Because if I would have had anything to do with this, I would have at least made him make sure that he paid the right amount. Because he didn't pay the whole thing.
How much was the mortgage?
$3,000.
Your Honor, I would like to also say some other things that I have here.
Go ahead.
After my husband had left, we've never lived together, but Tim never went home. He asked me if he was getting low on his check, should he reorder some and put them in my address. I told him no, it was too soon. I did not think that this was a good idea. To go open my mailbox 2 weeks later to find a box of checks in his name only in my address. He has also bought siding to my shed that I told him to return.
So?
I also fixed a lot of stuff in the house. Shortly after her husband left.
You cared for her.
Oh, yes, I cared very much.
You cared for her. Did you follow through with your divorce?
It's in the works right now.
What happened to the 2 of you? Just curious.
Well, she couldn't handle my kids. My kids are very outspoken. They tell it as it is, and that's the way I raised them.
Just a second.
They raised.
Maybe they're just rude.
No, this is the way we were. We just, told it as this. And she just couldn't handle the way they were.
How old are your children?
I got 4, 22, 21, 19, and 16. And, I love them dearly. And she couldn't handle it, so she, went her way a little while. Before I knew that, she was starting to date another guy from the bar. Past I heard that she was back with her husband again, from what I heard, and here I am.
Is that true?
No, it's not.
You heard wrong.
Yep, okay.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
She was very manipulative in what she did a lot of things.
That's not what you told me
But I
before.
don't loan that type of money without.
Yes, you do. You do if you're in love.
And later today,
Mr. Bridges, what date did they take the computer home?
Forgive me. Oh, great. I'm a little nervous. I apologize.
Don't be nervous. I only eat litigants on Tuesdays. Just Tuesdays.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Tim Gray says ex-girlfriend Lisa Ashpole owes for a loan to retain a divorce attorney and a separate loan to pay her mortgage. Lisa says Tim was attempting to buy her love.
Mr. Gray?
Yes.
I am usually not predisposed to finding that monies paid under these circumstances are gifts. I'm usually predisposed to find that even under these circumstances, there is some obligation to repay money. Because if I find that one person is trying to get over on another, I think there's a certain inequity there. If you care for her more than she cares for you, and she's using that and is sort of bilking you for money, I think that that's an immoral thing, and that shouldn't happen. I don't get the sense of that here, sir. I really don't. What I do is sense, Mr. Gray, that you cared for her. You wanted her not to be stressed. You knew she was hardworking, and she was trying to make ends meet. She wasn't getting much money from her husband, the father of these children, and you wanted to help her because you cared for her. You had checks printed with her address. You planned on moving in to her home. You planned on being a family together. So I don't believe that under those circumstances you would have said to her, this is a loan.
But
I don't believe that that happened, sir. I believe that when she was sitting on the bed and being very unhappy because she had all of this mounting debt, you, in a very magnanimous way, like a hero, got up, went to the phone, called your Visa, and said, I want you to pay this bill.
that wasn't the way it happened, Your Honor.
I think it probably was, Mr. Gray.
She was very manipulative on what she did a lot of things on.
That may be true, sir. That's not what you told me
But
before.
I don't loan that type of money without.
Yes, you do.
No, I don't.
You do if you're in love. You do if you're in love. You say, I want us to be together, and I want us to have a future together, and I don't want you to be stressed, and I want to show you that I can help take care of you, and that's what I'm going to do. And I believe that's what you did, Mr. Gray. And while my rulings usually do not go this way, I don't believe she was being manipulative. I believe that you were being in love and reacting appropriately, and unfortunately it didn't work out.
Maybe
you say
I
it was
was.
because of your kids. Maybe it was. But certainly, I don't believe she was being manipulative. I think that in the time that you were together, I think that she probably cared for you. Is that true?
Well, she cared, but she also agreed that she would pay me back.
I don't believe that, Mr. Gray. Your case is dismissed.
Audience are excused. You may step out.
They're just outspoken.
I don't have a problem with outspokenness because I can be very outspoken as well.
She lied through her way and got her way out of it again.
His 16-year-old slapped my 6-year-old and left a big welt on his buttocks. Yeah.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Beausoleil versus Bridges. Step forward, please.
Doll artist Carol Beausoleil is suing computer business owner Jeff Bridges for a refund on a computer. Carol says Jeff sold an outdated computer to her minor son.
Miss Beausoleil, where is your son?
He didn't come because he's afraid to go on planes, and he just felt really awkward. And
How old is he?
17.
He didn't come because he's embarrassed. I can understand why he would be embarrassed under the circumstances of this case.
Oh, okay,
According to
yeah,
your
you're
complaint, Miss Beausoleil, your son wanted a computer, and he had a friend who worked in a computer store. Two of you discussed it and thought it would be a good idea for him to go to the computer store where his friend works. Are you the friend?
Yes.
For him to buy a computer, a used computer, because he needed it for the internet.
Right.
So he went with his friend to the computer store owned by the defendant and was sold a used computer with a monitor. The whole package was $420?
Yes, ma'am. Good morning, by the way.
Good morning. And you say the computer crashed at some point and you want your money back.
Yeah.
What date did you sell the boy the computer?
Speaking to me, Your Honor?
Yes.
Your
I'm
Honor?
looking at you, I'm talking to you.
Sorry. I sold it on March 28th of 2002, and it was a used computer system.
Okay. And you told him it was used?
Yes, I did.
Did he give you a deposit?
Yes, he gave me a $50 deposit.
Did he take the computer with him?
No, not right away.
So he really bought it on layaway?
Yes.
Now, when your son came home, your son was 17 at the time?
Yeah.
Did you discuss with your son that he had found a computer that he liked and he put a $50 deposit on it?
Right.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So did you go down to the computer store
Yes.
to look at it?
Yep.
You did?
Yep. It looked brand new.
Well, you knew it wasn't brand new. You
No.
knew it was used.
It was a few years old.
When did you take the computer home?
It was about a month after. We brought it home.
Just to answer my questions. Your son isn't here,
Okay.
so I have to do this my way. Mr. Bridges, what date did they take the computer home?
Forgive me. Oh, great. I'm a little nervous. I apologize.
Don't be nervous. I only eat litigants on Tuesdays. Just Tuesdays.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Carol Beausoleil says business owner Jeff Bridges sold a worthless computer to her minor son.
Go ahead.
Okay. $328 is what I have.
$328 is the first payment of $50, Mr. Bridges.
I'm sorry. Actually, Your Honor, if I may show these to you, because
Why? If you can't find it, why are you giving it to me? I don't get paid to get tortured, Mr. Bridges.
Well,
she
you
says it was a month later, so let's say it was a month later.
Okay,
They
yeah.
made the final payment, you gave them the computer.
Yes.
All right, now, Miss Beausoleil, you now bring the computer home. Who made the last payment, you or your son?
I gave my son the money to go and put down.
All right, after you had already been there to see it.
Right.
Fine.
If I may, Your Honor, she actually came into this, the store to make the last payment and a check.
Well, you had to bring it in the car. We had, you know.
Oh, so you went and made the last payment.
With my son.
Fine. No, you went. You're the adult. Your son is a minor. He cannot enter into a contract.
Right. Okay.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
If your son had gone in there alone, Mr. Bridges might have had a problem. But your son didn't go there alone. He went there with you, Miss Beausoleil.
Right.
You knew you weren't getting any guarantee with the computer.
Oh, yeah, there's a guarantee. I have a guarantee here.
Let me see it.
And I have this over here that I underlined.
Let's see what the guarantee is. Well, where's the guarantee?
At the very bottom.
It says all repairs are guaranteed for 30 days.
But, I mean, as far as the warranty, too. There's a warranty on it.
Listen, help me out here. Just let her point it to you, Bird. You can point it to me, and then make my life easier.
May I speak? No. Okay, sorry.
Okay, he reassured me, I mean, you know, because we were going to have it fixed, and then...
Miss Beausoleil, there was no warranty with this computer. The piece of paper that you gave me said that all repairs done by them are guaranteed for 30 days. You have a document there that does not have a warranty. Is that correct?
Okay, but on the day we picked it up, from that date on, we still had the 30 days.
No! You don't have 30 days. You didn't have a computer repaired. You bought a computer, a used computer that came without a warranty, which is exactly what I said.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
It's getting harder. Now, you bring the computer home.
Mm-hmm.
What happened when you got it home?
So he set everything up, the technician helped him, and then the system stated it wasn't internet ready, that he needed a lot more RAM. So that was fine. So Linus offered his assistance and added these few things for the computer. And then when I called Jeffrey...
Linus? Is that your name?
Yes.
Good.
Yeah, that's my
Yes
son's
is all
name.
I need from you.
So
So
then
he came over and he added stuff for the,
Yeah,
for the
which was
computer.
nice. I mean, we didn't think there was a problem with the computer. We
Good.
thought
Next.
it just needs a few RAMs. So then I called Mr. Bridges to tell him, and he says, well, you know what, Carol, the new modem, it's in the mail. It hasn't arrived yet, but you can use the one we have. But, you know, I just closed my business. He was open for a month. And I figured, well, we'll
Did
just
it
have him-
work? Listen to me. Did it work after Linus put in the RAMs or doodads or whatever it did? Did it work?
It was
for a day, for 2 days, for 5 days.
It worked for some game procedures, but it was very slow.
I don't care if it was slow or not.
Yeah.
It's an old thing, as my husband says. You know, when he has a computer
Mm.
and it's more than 6 months old, he says to me, "Oh, it's a dinosaur. I need a new computer." You know?
Yeah.
But it worked.
Yeah.
So what are you complaining about?
Well, when I talked to DSL, they said they couldn't, that we couldn't deal with DSL. So in other words, my son couldn't go on internet. He couldn't go on the internet.
What do you want from me? What do you want from Mr. Bridges? You should have made all of these inquiries before you bought the computer. Before you bought the computer. You bought a computer that did not have any warranties whatsoever on it.
Yeah, but he gave me his phone number and said, Carol, if anything goes wrong, just give me a call. So I did. He hung up on me. I had to call the police, and then he did.
What'd you call the police for?
Because he called me a controlling, and he pressed the button. He pressed the button.
So
and it's
you
like,
bothered the police with that?
No, but it seems like when he sold the computer, and after we had it in our house, oh, well, no big deal. I mean,
That's what happens. He's a merchant. Miss Beausoleil, do your homework better the next time. If you buy something that's used, especially a computer, what I suggest you do is, I suggest you read all kinds of magazines, get a hold of Consumer Reports, get a hold of everything else, and make an informed judgment. When you're buying something used, it's no different from buying it off the street, unless you get a guarantee from someone that they will honor repairing, maintaining it, or whatever for a period of time.
Well,
The fact that he went out of business, he doesn't have to stay in business to satisfy you. If he can't make a living, he's entitled to go out of business.
Yeah.
You bought a computer with no recourse because you have no guarantee. And anything that's not in your contract, the fact that he gave you his phone number, you cannot amend a written contract, which is what you have, with an oral statement, call me if you have any problems. That's what everybody says. That's like the check is in the mail. You know, call me with any problems. Ms. Bosley, you should be wise enough not to get involved with something like this.
But see, it was because of Linus being my son's friend. Linus knows more about computers. My son is kind of illiterate when it comes to computers.
Then buy him a new computer with a guarantee.
Yeah.
Yeah. Case is dismissed.
Now, this is case number 200 on the calendar, the matter of Wofford versus Cox. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have seats.
Ms. Wofford, you and the defendant, according to your complaints, had an off-again, on-again relationship for about 7 years.
Correct.
The last time it was off again, it is your claim that he came into the house and took all the property, half of which was yours. He says he got sick and tired of being tossed out with the clothes on his back over the 7-year period and decided that he was going to take the property this time because he paid for it and it's his. He's got a counterclaim for a truck that he purchased for $750 that he says was put in your name because he had some driver's license problems and you had the truck towed onto your property and he wants his truck back. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
So my question is, why are you bothering me? Together on and off for 7 years, not married. You see, we don't have courts here for those people who choose just to live together. We have courts for people who are married and divorcing. You know, the property is either community property or it's property that is divided by equitable distribution. But you expect me to go back and figure out who bought what? Is that what you want?
No. No.
So what do you want?
I would like half of what was given, or half of what was ours.
Who bought it?
We bought it together. We shared all of our monies together.
Did you have a joint bank account?
No, we did not.
You mean you would see a TV and you would say, well, the TV is $500. Here's $250 and here's $250.
That's correct.
Show me. No, the burden is on her.
Okay.
Just listen to me. The burden is on her.
Okay. I would be more than glad to show you proof of receipts, but when he came into my house after the day he broke the restraining order, they took all the receipts. They took the contents of the file cabinet. So I have no receipts. I have pictures of what the TV looks like. I have warranty cards on it.
Did you
That's
go
all I
into
have
the
to offer
house
you.
after there was a restraining order filed against you?
I thought I was illegally served. I even called the courts. It was the next day. I went back and only took what things were mine.
Tell me what you took.
I took my TV, my camping gear, my skis, and things that my parents have given me over
Like
the
what?
years. Tin cans that we collect.
What else?
And my clothes. A VCR that a friend of mine owed me $20, and he gave me his VCR instead because he didn't have the money to pay me back.
What else?
That's all I can remember.
Okay. Now, how long did you live in this apartment together?
About 5 years.
Is that right?
Yeah, a little over
Very
5
good.
years.
Did you sleep in a bed?
Yes, we did.
Did he take the bed?
No.
Did you sit
It was
on a
too big.
couch? Shh. Did you sit on a couch?
Yes.
Did he take the couch?
No.
Did you eat on a table?
Yes.
Did he take the table?
Yes, he did.
Kitchen table?
Yes.
Did you take the table?
Yes. I just purchased it.
Just a second. Took the table. Take the chairs that went with the table?
There was 2 chairs with it.
2 chairs. Now let's go back to the living room. There's a sofa.
Yes.
Is there any chair in the living room?
There was 1 chair.
Did he take the chair?
Yes, he did.
Is that right?
The recliner chair that my mom gave me, yes.
Where did she
Gave us.
Did
My
his
mom
mother
never gave you anything.
Shh. Come on. Swafford. Did the recliner chair come from his mother?
Yes.
Is there a cocktail table in the living room?
Yes, there was.
Okay. And?
He took that also, which was a Christmas gift.
Just a second. Did you know, Mr. Cox, when I ask you what you took, you're
I'm
supposed to
sorry.
answer me, sir.
I'm a little nervous, that's all.
I don't care if you're nervous or not. You remembered your skis and you remember the $20 VCR. When I ask you what you took, you're supposed to tell me. How many pieces of furniture did you leave?
Everything that was hers. The couch. She has another kitchen table upstairs. All 4 chairs that go to that kitchen table.
Just a minute. Is there another kitchen table in the house?
Yes, there was.
And did he leave it?
Oh, yes, he did.
Good. What else?
That was hers.
Oh, just a second. What else did you leave is what I want to know.
Her microwave, the microwave stand. All
Okay,
the
just a
dish-
second. Was there a microwave in the house?
Yes.
And did he leave it?
Yes.
You see, what I'm trying to get at,
I
Miss
see.
Wofford, is the following. I have absolutely no intention of wasting my time in going through a bunch of ridiculous items of property. You now have a house. Your house has a bed to sleep in, a table and chairs to eat off of, a couch to sit on, right?
Yes, correct.
You have a microwave, and I assume an oven. Oven is kind of hard to say, but you have a microwave to warm things up, and as far as I'm concerned, that's as much cooking as any natural person has to have. So you have a perfectly livable condition, and I have no intention of going through items like a table and 2 chairs. You got a table and 2 chairs, you got a table and 4 chairs. You got a couch, you took the recliner chair.
Okay, may I say something? There was personal items of mine that he took.
Like what?
When he took his clothes out of the closet, instead of looking, he just gathered them up like this. There was a ski jacket that was bought for me from my sister. The skis that he took that were given to me by my sister. There was several clothes, my fishing pole, my tackle box, the coffee table that was built for me by my son's friend. And here's a statement from him, from the agreement that him and Ron had on it.
Because I paid for it, that's why the agreement's...
No, that is not.
Well,
That
maybe
is-
why don't you explain why we got another coffee table?
Listen to me. Listen to me.
I'm sorry.
Now I want to go back to the truck.
Yes, ma'am.
Who purchased the truck?
I did.
We did.
Ask her
Just
who-
a second, just a second.
Ask her who the owners were that I bought it from. She don't even know.
How much did the truck cost?
I paid $700 for it.
Where did you get the $700 from?
I made payments as I was working. Each payday I made payments on it because I couldn't pay $700 up front.
We made payments
Just a
on
second. Just a second. How did you make payments on it?
Because my boss...
How?
Oh, out of my check.
Check or cash?
Cash.
Now, the rest of the money, sir, went for
Food.
rent and gas and electric, and
And then
I
that-
assume that you paid those things together.
We did.
Is that right?
My checks usually paid all the bills and stuff because my checks were bigger than her amount because at the time she was only making minimum wage.
Okay. So your checks went to pay the household bills, and her checks went for what?
To get through. She had a direct deposit. In the last 6-8 months, the year that we were together, her money was her money, and mine was mine. More or less, my money got through, and I had to beg her for
That
$5.
is not true whatsoever.
That
That
is
is not.
true.
Everything we had together was paid 50-50. He paid half the
Is
rent.
it?
I paid half the rent.
Show me.
Electricity.
I have some bills to show you that.
Show me.
I have no.
Did you pay your rent by check?
No, we paid it by cash. And can we
Okay,
get back
listen to me. Listen to me. Hey!
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Can we talk about the restraining order he broke?
No.
Ma'am, what about the...
No.
And later today,
This is her signature, 213. No deposit. Price of the puppy, $500. No deposit. What are you, a Swiftie? I mean,
No,
what's
ma'am,
wrong
that's
with
her
you?
signature, ma'am.
No, it isn't.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Diane Wofford says ex-boyfriend Ron Cox stole her belongings when he moved out of their apartment. Ron says Diane stole his truck.
Do you have a car?
Yes, I do.
What kind of car do you have?
I have the Toyota pickup and I have a Chevy.
No! What kind of car do you
I
have?
have a Chevy Cavalier that is
All
broken.
right. Now, what year car is it?
It's a 90 Chevy Cavalier.
The time that the truck was purchased, were you driving the Chevy Cavalier?
Yes.
And what was Mr. Cox driving?
He wasn't driving anything at the time because he doesn't have a driver's license.
Bird, would you give me the title, please?
Can we talk about the restraining order he broke?
No.
Okay. Can we talk about his
You could talk
alcoholism?
about you could talk about that with your children, but I'm not interested in it. I'm just interested in getting this. Sorry. I'm just interested in right now the truck. Oh, okay. I see that this truck was purchased in two people's names. Is that right?
I purchased.
Is that right?
It is at the time, yeah.
All right. Now, Mr. Wofford, let me explain to you something, sir. While there is no equitable distribution or community property involved in people living together, when people choose stupidly to live together for 7 years or 5 years without benefit of marriage, I'm going to take the easiest way out for a court in determining who owns property. And as far as I'm concerned, this property is owned 50-50. Do you understand? You chose, for whatever reason, to put her name on the title.
I made that mistake.
You made a mistake. If you made a mistake, why should I have to suffer for it by extending this case any longer than I have to? Now, you paid $700 for the truck?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that right? Correct. Very good. Now, Miss Wofford, are you driving this pickup now?
Yes, I am.
What happened to your Chevy?
It's broken. The
So
front
you're,
stretch-
so you're driving it?
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes, correct.
And do you drive it to work?
Yes, I do.
And I assume you want to keep it?
Yes, I do.
Very good. Then you will pay him on his counterclaim, okay, $350. Your claim is dismissed. On the counterclaim, I'm awarding you $350, sir. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Sign over the title.
What about all my stuff? What about my personal belongings that he has
Sign
taken out of
over
my
the
home?
title. Do we have a pen?
Your Honor, may I say something?
No.
Ma'am, what about the...
No. You're getting a truck, Miss Wofford, that in all probability you had nothing to do with paying for, and you're getting it at a bargain price. Do you understand?
I guess.
Do you understand? Worth at least as much as the fishing pole you say that he took. And that somebody's skis that... Did you sign it, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. Now, Bird, would you hand that over to Miss Wofford? And then, Bird, would you do me the last favor? Sure. Would you show them out?
Parties are excused. You may step out.
This man came into my home, ripped me off. I have a restraining order about his alcoholism problems this man has had.
The whole relationship was abusive, both physically and mentally.
He's a nothing. He's a no good. He'll always be a no good.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Dabrowski versus Allen, step forward, please.
22-year-old sales rep Lena Dabrowski is suing dog breeder Teresa Allen for a refund for a pit bull puppy and related expenses. Teresa is countersuing for boarding costs and loss of profit.
Mr. Dabrowski, you claim to have purchased a puppy from the defendant, and the puppy turned out to have certain medical problems. Ms. Allen says that there was nothing wrong with the puppy. As a matter of fact, she is counterclaiming. She says that she had a great deal of expense because you returned this puppy to her. At first glance, her countersuit is nonsense, but I will allow her to at least tell me what she thinks you owe her. How did you find this breeder? What kind of a dog did you purchase and when?
It's American Pit Bull Terrier. I found her in June.
How did you find her?
On the internet. We contacted each other through email at first. I couldn't pay for what she was asking up front.
What was she asking?
The $1,000 for a puppy. And when we had a phone conversation after that, we agreed on $500 as long as whenever this dog is shown, her name comes up, kind of like a representation.
And where did you have to go to pick the puppy up?
I had to drive to Las Vegas from San Diego to pick the puppy up. I have.
You mean there are no puppies where you live?
I'm sure there was. I thought she was a very reputable breeder.
Go ahead.
The dogs that I saw on the pictures, I really like the dogs.
Do you have a bill of sale?
Yes, I have the actual contract. Where it states actually right here, where the puppy was $500 and there was no deposit right next to it.
Well, let me take a look at the contract. You picked up this puppy on the 2nd of March?
Yes, 2nd of March.
Okay, and when did you take the puppy to the vet?
To the vet, I took it on, that's the first vet appointment was on the 6th. But I called her the next day. I noticed that one of its eye was discolored. So I called her that day.
What do you mean discolored? Tell me.
It had like a bluish grayish tint in it. Is this. And you don't need the fee. So just basically here, and it talks about the eyes. That's where that is.
Under the examination report, this veterinarian indicates under the eyes there is a discharge, trouble with vision, abnormalities. Now, did you call her and let her know what the results of this examination were?
Yes, I did.
And what did she say to you?
And she said that basically I have to take it because that vet didn't know, and there's no way that that's happening with the dog. I have to take it to an ophthalmologist because.
And did you take it to an ophthalmologist?
I just end up taking it to an ophthalmologist.
Can I see the report from the ophthalmologist?
This is the letter from the ophthalmologist. And in the bottom, in bold, it states exactly what's wrong with the dog and what its condition is.
So after you got this from the ophthalmologist, what did you do?
In order to avoid the shipping cost, we agreed that if I was to take it to an ophthalmologist and pay the $65 fee, her husband was going to be down in Riverside in April. I would drive up to Riverside, which would be a lot shorter for me, and just give him the dog then.
Excuse me, Your Honor. That was not the whole agreement.
Well, what was the agreement?
Well, first off, she threatened me on the phone throughout the whole conversation.
She's not finished yet. Then you'll have your turn, unless you can give me a swift. That was not our agreement. Our agreement was...
The agreement was that if I went to the show, that we would take the dog out there at the time when we went to the dog show.
So you did have an agreement that you would pick up the dog if you went out to a dog show?
If we went to the dog show, yes,
And you didn't go to the dog show. Is that what you're
No,
telling me?
we didn't go to the dog show on that dog show.
Oh, okay. So you spent $65 for the vet.
I spent $65.
And how much did you spend to send the dog back because they didn't go to the dog show?
$138.87, and I have the receipt for that as well.
Go ahead.
And she also told me that I had to take it to get its shots. And that was another $30.95, and that already happened March 14th. And I have the receipts for that as well.
Okay. And $500 for the puppy.
Right.
Okay, now I'll hear you, Miss Allen.
Ma'am, I do have a copy of the breed standard for UKC. Mr. Browski states that the dog is not breedable and showable. Breed standard does not specify
She
that.
wanted to return the puppy.
Yes,
Let
ma'am.
me explain something to you, Miss Allen. This puppy was in ill health. She is entitled to, under the terms of your contract, her money back.
Yes, ma'am. And I told her I would give her money back, all but the deposit, which is non-refundable, which, when anybody ever emails me about a dog, I explain to them that there's a $200 non-refundable deposit required on
Just show me in your contract where there was a deposit.
On that one, ma'am, there's not. On
This
my
is the only contract. Where is it? You have another contract?
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to
see
see
that day.
Shh. I would like to see the other contract. Have the plaintiff write her name 3 times on this piece. I want you to look at this, and I want you to tell me whether this is your signature. This is the contract that the defendant says plaintiff signed, which indicates that there was a $200 deposit. Is that your signature?
That does not look like my signature, no.
It sure doesn't to me.
You know what? I don't do the K's and the Y's like that, no. My SKY is never like that.
It's not her signature. You wrote this yourself. Give this back to her. She wrote it herself. It's not her signature as it appears on the complaint. It's not her signature as it appears in her writing exemplar. This is her signature, 213. No deposit. Price for puppy, $500. No deposit. What are you, a Swiftie? I mean,
No,
what's
ma'am,
wrong with
that's
you?
her signature, ma'am.
No, it isn't. No, it isn't. It's not her signature. You're a business person. You say, return the dog to me pursuant to our contract, and I'm going to send you your money back, or you can come and pick out another puppy.
And, ma'am, I did that except for the deposit, which was
There was no
non-refundable.
deposit. You're a Swiftie.
No, ma'am.
Not in the contract. Not in the contract that I see. She didn't do this contract over again.
This is the same contract. I printed out 2 copies that day, ma'am, and she
Well,
signed both of the copies in front
No,
of me.
no. One says deposit 0.
Yes, ma'am, and because I messed up on both the contracts, on the first one that she signed, ma'am, I did not put the deposit. When I print out the second one, I made sure that I did that right.
But she didn't sign her name. You did.
No, ma'am. she
Or
signed
your
her
husband
name
did, or
on
your
that.
friend. No. The signatures are totally different. Totally, completely different. The contract, however, does say that the return of the dog is at your expense.
Okay.
You understand that?
Yes.
So you are entitled to $500, which is the cost of your puppy, $65 that you paid for the doctor. It's another $30 to have shots, right? Because she told you to have shots.
Right.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $600. That's all.
Your Honor, this is case number 22 on the calendar in the matter of Schroeder versus Weeks. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Sir, have a seat, please.
Mr. Schroeder, the defendant is your daughter. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am. I'm having a little bit trouble hearing you.
Okay, I will speak louder. Your wife passed away recently,
Yes.
and it is your claim that your daughter took certain jewelry of your wife's that you would like back.
Yes, ma'am.
That's what this claim is about.
Yes, ma'am.
Your daughter says that it was your wife's wish that she have this jewelry.
Yes, ma'am.
Miss Weeks, was this the only property that your mother left?
She left some other family heirlooms and personal property, but nothing of significant value.
I assume that that's a box. Is that a box?
This is the watch that he claims, and the ring was my mother's.
I'd like to see both, please. Were your parents, Miss Weeks, estranged at the time of her death?
Yes, ma'am.
Why?
Well, in September of 1999, my mother was placed in an adult family home.
What was her illness?
Her diagnosis was multiple sclerosis at that time. And she was falling a lot. She was being left alone a lot. And Adult Protective Services were involved because of the fire department having to, she had one of those life call buttons. And the fire department was called to the house quite frequently to pick her up. And they felt that she was in a neglectful situation because she was not being properly cared for. And so Adult Protective Services started searching for alternative living arrangements for her.
And according to the complaint that I've read and your answer, there came a time around 1999 where you were given by your mother power of attorney.
That is correct.
Subsequently, in 2000, you were appointed her guardian.
That is correct.
Was her diagnosis ever modified from multiple sclerosis to something else?
Not officially, no.
All right. Now, what I found interesting about your answer was that in 2000 you were in fact appointed her guardian.
Yes, ma'am.
Because the court found that she was unable to take care of herself and make decisions for herself.
That is correct.
When was it that your mother told you that she wanted you to have this jewelry?
October, November of '99.
Did you take the jewelry at that time?
I did. And later, early part of 2000, she asked for me to give her back her ring because she wanted to wear it.
And she wore it until she died?
Yes, ma'am.
I do not want to get involved in, because I don't think it's necessary to estrange the two of you any further. Do you have siblings?
Yes.
How many?
I have 3 brothers and a sister.
Are you in touch with your other children, sir? Do you have any contact with your other children?
Pardon me?
Do you have any contact with your other
No,
children?
I don't.
So you have no contact with any of your children?
And I have, even my youngest boy got up and left at the funeral when my wife, her services were. And my daughter, to my immediate left, didn't even take the time to go to her mother's funeral.
Ms. Weeks, very briefly, can you tell me why all of the children, from your perspective, don't have contact with their father? Your parents were married for, according to this, 47 years.
Yes. My father, from the time we were small children, was very abusive towards the 5 of us children, as well as my mother. And I have the Guardian ad litem report that has statements to that effect, if you would like to see that. And he was never supportive of any of our decisions or anything that we felt we wanted to do, and was very mean, has said very mean and hateful things towards my middle brother, to the point where
so it's a whole history.
Yeah, it's a very, very long and sordid history.
But Ms. Weeks, doesn't it strike you that in early 2000, your mother wanted her wedding rings back? Why do you think she wanted her wedding rings back?
She'd been married and wearing them for 40 years, and she missed wearing them. And
that's usually a symbolic thing. That
it was a symbolic thing, yes.
She missed wearing them.
Yes.
I understand that you had gotten a protective order so that he didn't go to the nursing home after a certain point. At what point did he stop going to the nursing home?
In February of 2000 is when the order of protection was put into place due to his behavior when he did visit her and phone calls that he made when he called her there.
I am going to try to resolve this issue, as I think, as wisely as I can. Your mother gave you this watch in 1999.
No, the watch, Bob gave her that watch late last year. If he wants that watch back, he can have that watch back. That watch has no significant sentimental value to me whatsoever. What has value to me are my mother's things. He abandoned their home, and if I hadn't retrieved the few family heirlooms that I had retrieved from the home, they would have been in the city dump.
I'm talking about these two things, Mrs. Weeks.
Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry.
I can understand probably each of the children wanting to have a memento, something
yes, ma'am,
to look at and to touch of their mothers. I can also understand from your father's perspective. Are you living alone now, sir?
I'm living, I have my own room. I'm taking care of a lady that will soon be 91 years old.
But this is somebody that you care for. This is a job.
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me why you want these wedding rings back, Mr. Schroeder.
I bought those rings for my wife 47 years ago. I gave my wife the first ring at her home at East Indiana when I was invited to supper by her mother, who has passed away. I feel I'm entitled to these rings. I paid for them. Since my daughter has made such terrible accusations about me, which are all unprovable, and I feel that I should have the rings and the watch back, plus other things that she took out of the home.
We're not talking about other things,
All right.
Mr. Schroeder. We're talking about the
ring
watch
and the watch. Yes, ma'am.
and the rings. Now, let me ask you this question, Mr. Schroeder.
Yes, ma'am.
If you had to make a choice between the watch and the rings as a memento, which would you want?
I want them both, Your Honor. I paid for them.
That's not the answer, sir.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Your children don't talk to you, Mr. Schroeder. There has to be a reason. And unless you want to live the rest of your life by yourself, I would suggest you do a little soul searching and figure out what that was.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Robert Schroeder says his daughter, Julie Weeks, won't return his late wife's possessions. Julie says it was her mother's wish that she have the items.
Are they of equal importance to you?
Yes, ma'am.
You feel the same way. One was a gift to your wife.
Yes, ma'am.
Are you telling me, Mr. Schroeder, that each of these items are as important to you as the other?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, I'm going to ask you the same question, Miss Weeks. If I were to ask you which of these items, memento from your mother, is more important to you, which would it be?
It would be her ring. I wear it every day.
Give her, Miss Weeks, the ring. Give Mr. Schroeder the watch. Mr. Schroeder, that was the wrong answer, sir. The fact that you paid for them and they were yours is not the answer.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to tell you why, Mr. Schroeder. Children don't replace emotionally the loss of a parent, in this case, their mother. Sometimes mates replace emotionally their mate. They may never forget, but they replace emotionally. If you said to me, I want the rings back because we were married with those rings, she wore those rings for 47 years, they're part of our history, I want them, I would have given you the rings. And you have to understand that, Miss Weeks.
Yes, ma'am.
But to you, it didn't make any difference. You said to me, I paid for both. They're equally as important to me, so I want them both. Well, I knew that they weren't equally as important to your daughter, right?
That's right.
You have the watch, you have the rings, you probably never make up, I assume. Is that right?
That is correct, ma'am.
I assume so. That's very sad, but
it is sad.
You're a grown-up adult, and he probably is a lonely old man who doesn't have at this point in his life the support of his children or his grandchildren. I assume you don't see your grandchildren either.
No, I have a call regularly from Marianne in Florida.
Well, Mr. Schroeder, you should do a little
Marianne is Julie's oldest daughter.
How old are you, sir? How old are you?
70 years old.
Well, that's not so old, Mr. Schroeder. There's still time for you to try to do something to get back into the good graces of your family. But you also have to look at yourself and say, what is it that I did over the last 45 years to my family that makes them all cut me off? Your children don't talk to you, Mr. Schroeder. There has to be a reason. And unless you want to live the rest of your life by yourself, I would suggest you do a little soul searching and figure out what that was. Thank you very much. The case is over.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I've tried to be kind to Bob. I've tried to show him care, and every time I open up and try to be kind to the man, he is hateful towards me.
I hope that